Hey, gang, I'm getting caught up. Another morning where I need an assistant, a producer. What else? I need a camera. Oh, that didn't fire up. That's awesome. I got Blake in the background laughing at me. We can at least bring him out. Let everybody see something.
Hey, I've had a week like that too.
Dude. Oh.
Everything, all my technology has revolted this week. So I think there's something in the water or the air or something. Maybe it's the cold weather, but all of my stuff has been haywire this week too. So you're not alone.
So I'm not even sure if I'm even on the air in one of our stations. One of them is. I know that's been a debacle too. I'm trying to pay Tan Talk for the time, and my bank records are telling me they're using one account. They've clearly got another credit card, and or else, I mean, how would they know what the last four digits are? And so I'm like, what the hell? Then
I recorded. So I've got the Rodecaster. I've got the Rodecaster Pro, and it's got these voice modulation things that my kids like to play with. I don't ever use them, but I accidentally I recorded a whole video the other day with like a monster voice disguise voice, and I didn't realize it till I threw it in the editor. It's like, what an idiot. And then the second one, I had my mic muted, so it was just silence. So I had to do a video 3 times this week to get it right.
I've done both of them. But you do hour-long episodes too, don't you, for the most part?
Yeah, generally I do. Well, no, it wasn't a whole episode. It was just a short. So it was a minute and a half. So fortunately, it was not an hour-long one, although I have messed up an entire episode before. So yeah, it's been one of those weeks for me too. But I stayed up till 2 a.m. fixing all the tech stuff last night. So I hope everything works today. Although my video is very jittery today, if you'll notice. So I don't know what's going on there.
Your audio cut out for a second a couple moments ago.
Oh, well, that's fun too.
Otherwise, you and I were talking in the offline chat. We use Messenger usually, the three of us. Matt, by the way, is in Mexico City today.
Sounds nice. It's probably warmer than it is in either the places we live.
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
It's cold there though right now, right?
Oh yeah, we have I'm in near Tampa.
Y'all got some snow.
We have a frost warning until tomorrow morning.
Yeah, y'all don't know what to do with that in Florida.
They don't know how to spell it here. Ron DeSantis called a state of emergency for 6 inches of snow.
Hey,
when
but
I lived
look,
in Pennsylvania, I had more than that on my driveway on the side of a mountain, and I still was on time for school.
Right, and we make fun of it here in Oklahoma too, because it's the same thing here. But there really is, if you don't have the infrastructure to salt roads or plow them, or like 1 inch, or really the thing here is the ice. That's the problem. It comes down wet and then it freezes, and no one knows how to drive on it. It's not like when you're in Colorado and it's packed snow, or they plow every morning and they salt all the time. For 6 months, it's like that in Colorado. They've got but yeah, Florida doesn't have snowplow infrastructure or salting infrastructure.
I'm surprised to hear they had it here in Florida. They have snowplows in North Florida. I'm like, why? To push sand back into the water?
I bet they moved some there because now that we get a heads up on weather a little bit in advance.
The whole rest of the country needs them.
Well,
what are you going to do? Bring them down to Lake Placid?
That's a good question. I don't have a clue. That's a good question. Maybe they just have a few on hand, because like around here they do emergency routes first, and then they kind of spread out through the city. And so like you may only get through on every mile, like you can't do the side streets and stuff. But it southern states are generally not, like, watching videos of people driving on in Texas and Florida and these places that don't normally get the ice and snow is always funny. It's dangerous. It's the reason I don't like getting out when it's frozen like that. I'm confident I can drive. I've got a Jeep. I've got 4-wheel drive. I'm very careful on the ice, but there's a bunch of idiots out there that aren't. So it's unfortunate that I'm sure people are getting in all sorts of wrecks and stuff.
I'm getting a warning light on Mix. MIXXX is how we go to 4 of our stations, which is Atlanta, who we've had issues with before. And I didn't know about it.
Well,
It's saying we're connected.
well, we'll see if we're on the air. I don't know anyone in Atlanta to or wherever. I don't know anyone in.
One of our super fans actually is. He's also a
Well,
host of his own show, The Point with Travis Evans, every Tuesday night at 8 Eastern.
maybe see if he can tell us if we're on the air.
He sometimes checks in. Yeah. WDJYFM.com is where you would listen if you're not in the immediate northern Atlanta area. But yeah. So,
Well, lots to talk about this week.
oh my God. Yeah.
It like again, can we spread this out? Can we have more to talk about in December? No, we got to cram it all in first.
No. So the probably the biggest thing that I want to get your opinion about, because you've been critical of Biden.
Oh yeah, I've got lots of things I want your opinion on too today, actually.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, the preemptive pardon that he did for his sweeping preemptive pardon.
Yeah.
How do you compare that to pardoning 1,500 convicted felon and misdemeanors who basically tried, and I don't sugarcoat this.
Yeah.
Basically tried a coup.
Well, especially
Maggots can deny all they want. Trump's own staff told him he lost the election.
Right. And
there was no steel to stop.
So I have lots of opinions on this, and I think that first of all, I think it's worth pointing out that the president has this pardon power. So nothing that Joe Biden or Donald Trump did is illegal. It's not unconstitutional. We can talk about the morals of it. We can talk about the precedent it sets, but both their actions are legal, unfortunately, because we've given the president this broad pardon power. Now, here's
which founding father, do you remember this? Which one actually argued for that power?
Oh, I should know this from the Federalist Papers. I mean, I know that I think it was Hamilton that warned
too.
Well, no, it wasn't. Like, I think it was Hamilton that warned against it potentially being a way to get political favors and then give someone pardons. And that was his concern with it. It's not that they were saying, like, that was their concern with it. Now, keep in mind, when the Constitution is written, there are only 3 federal crimes. It's like treason, piracy, and what's the other? I mean, it's like maybe counterfeiting or something. Like there are almost no federal crimes. And
I guess fraud, because there was like land issues then.
Right. So the president at the time is he only has 3 crimes that he can pardon people for. Now, one of those is treason, and George Washington does essentially pardon the Whiskey Rebellion people. Right. And to be clear, I think the pardon power was clearly a way to it's a check and balance. And so what the pardon power is a way to say, give the executive branch a way to say, hey, judicial branch, you got something wrong here. Or it's for justice gone awry. It's a power check. That's what it is. It's a check and a balance. And we do this with governors too. Almost every governor, I believe, has some sort of pardon power too. Now, a lot of them go through boards and things like that. Most states have some sort of like clemency board or something like that they come through first and then go to the governor's desk. I know how it works in Oklahoma, at least. I'm not up to date on every state, obviously, but some states have some more guardrails in it where it's not just one guy.
Some of them have to be suggested to the governor. He or she can't just do it on their own.
Right. Yeah. It has to be a panel.
You have an equivalent of like a presidential pardon where they say, oh, that Blake Fisher guy just fell in some hard luck. I'm going to pardon him and we're done.
Yeah. So
it's a collection. Yeah.
But I think it's just worth knowing that, because so often what I'm seeing is people claiming that this is not just outrageous, but that there's something, illegal or something about it. And there's not. They have the legal power. However, this is just untested. We've never had a situation. We've never had 2 situations. We've had everyone. There's always these controversial pardons, but now comparing every other controversial presidential pardon I've ever seen, Joe Biden just obliterates them with these pardons, in my opinion, because for a couple of reasons. 2, there's 3 sets of pardons, in my opinion.
1,500 of them. So his
no, but he did. No, he did. But he did, because he blanket pardoned too many non-violent drug offenders. So here's one bucket that I think we need to talk about. That's not getting enough press right now.
At least admit that you're thankful his pardons were all nonviolent.
No, but
Not
that's the
people who
problem.
tried to
Here's
commit
the
a
problem.
coup.
Here's the problem. But that's the problem. They are not. The problem with a lot of these drug charges, and there are specific cases like this. I was listening to a podcast this morning. They were
There's
talking
one
about
in,
it, and I've
I
read
know
some of
there's
them.
one in Philadelphia you're going to mention.
And there's one in Arkansas. There's a couple. So here's the problem. Here's how crime works. You're a prosecutor. You arrest someone. You get a bunch of charges, and most of the time,
I was a federal agent for 21 years. I think I know how crime works.
Well, I'm not saying you. I'm saying the audience. I'm saying the thing is, most people, definitely at the federal level, by the way, get 97% of federal cases take plea deals. Only 2 or 3% of them go to trial. Most of the time in a plea deal, what you do is you charge someone a bunch, and what you do is you end up taking charges away in the plea deal. That's part of the deal. You should go, well, we could charge you with all these things, but if you take a guilty plea on these things, we won't charge you with these other things. So these non-violent drug offenders, there's this case of a not just a drug dealer, like a drug like gang lord person who sent his gang members to like pour boiling water on people's girlfriends to get get things like where's the money, where are the drugs? Like, this is a guy who was violent. But in his plea deal, he just pled to the drug distribution stuff and got 35 years. So he doesn't have a violent charge in the plea deal, but he was very, very violent. This is a guy that is no doubt going to be released and go back. First of all, he's going to seek out the women that testified against him. You know what I mean? Like this is putting other people. So Biden absolutely did pardon dangerous people in his drug stuff. Now I'm all for the nonviolent thing, the truly nonviolent marijuana offenders. Yes. If now something's legal that we used to say was illegal, let's commute those sentences. But you got to go case by case and realize that when you are like releasing a gang member back into the community that poured boiling water, put a taser to a woman's genitals, these are the things that this guy was accused of doing.
I know people that would enjoy that.
So right. Yeah, you're right. Some people do, but this is not that case. Those are people that Biden released, and those people will commit violent crimes again, and it will come back on Biden that he pardoned them. It's going to happen. There's no way. When you release 4,000 people like that, it only takes a couple of them to go back and do another violent crime. And then we learn the story that, they weren't convicted of a violent crime because they took a plea deal and didn't have the violent crime in the plea deal. They just took the drug charges or whatever, especially at the federal level, because the DEA is going to
turn it around then. Yeah. Turn it around then and tell me why pardoning 1,500 people that were convicted of assault. And these did go to trial. Facts did. It wasn't like they were talked into it. As the one guy, I watched my friend Brian Shapiro's show, Pushing the Limits, also on K-Shop, one of the stations that we're on right now in Las Vegas. And he had one of the convicted felons on after, now that they're, former felon, I guess. What do you even call them?
Well, no, they're pardoned. They're not, they don't have the record of felon unless now some of them were commuted. Like I believe, don't quote me on every single case. The Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, whatever their stupid name is, they were basically released for time served, but they will still have the record. They're still felons. They still cannot buy guns and things like that. In fact, someone's already been arrested for a gun charge.
That's what I want to get into.
But no, I'm with you.
About the numbers, what did you say Biden's count was? 4,000. I didn't even realize it was that high.
Oh, he pardoned 8,000 people. He pardoned more people than any president in history. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those were these drug charges that people go, oh, yeah, we're for that. Here's the problem that I have with
that's my question. Did he know the violent circumstances that didn't have, and I'm not sticking up for Joe Biden.
No, he probably didn't, but that's my problem with it, is that I don't think it's that he wanted a gang member out on the streets. I think that he said, yeah, give me all the nonviolent drug offenders and we're going to release them all. Just like Trump said, instead of taking the time to go case by case on the January 6th people, because that was the discussion being had, and allegedly he just was like, F it, release them all because that's easier. He didn't want to, he's lazy. He didn't want to deal with it. Not going case by case is a problem because you will inevitably, I do think there's a difference between the grandma that got a misdemeanor charge for walking into the Capitol and the Proud Boys who planned the attack. I think that there's a different, and now, and their punishments
who are continuing to lie about it. Like this guy that was on Brian's show was saying about how they knew nothing about anything with regards to, I'm paraphrasing, so we'll just leave it at that. But anything with regards to any sort of coup, any sort of violent activity, he knew nothing about that.
Yeah, but that's BS.
Hold on.
It's
Hold on.
BS.
Yeah, and here's why it's BS, because
It's total
he's alleging that everybody went to the rally all happy and glad that they think that Trump is going to come back from behind even after everything's over and win this.
And they were lied to. Like, and to be fair, they were duped.
Okay, so at that point, they're still lied to. All right. They move on to the Capitol after being told to fight like hell. They get there, and on the lawn that is between the White House and the Capitol, he's already erected a gallows.
Right. But
what do we think is happening with that? We're going to hit a piñata?
But can I tell you something, Yergs? This is
Go.
unfortunate. This is unfortunate. But, I talked for 4 hours with a lady that called these people hostages and stuff. And just, she was literally not aware that that gallows thing existed. I had to show her a picture of it because the news that they watch don't show that. And the sources they don't ever butt up against inconvenient arguments. Honestly, conservatives are more like liberals used to be, where like most liberals were in a bubble. Like if you went to Harvard, you're just in a, like, you never hear anything.
That still are.
You know what I mean? You never hear anything you disagree with. So you actually can't, you're not good at arguing your point because you've never actually met a conservative. You probably don't know a Republican. You've never actually like had a decent debate with someone that disagreed with you. That's what the super MAGA crowd is like now. They've never seen that the gallows are there. They never heard that people were saying hang Mike Pence, because the truth is there were a lot of people there that were just Donald Trump supporters. They weren't planning on being violent, and they weren't violent. Most of them did not go into the Capitol. Most of the people that were out on the lawn did not ever end up going into the Capitol by percentages. Like it was not.
But that doesn't mean that there weren't violent offenders.
Right. That's exactly my point. Is that
trespassers?
Exactly. And so,
how do you get to the Capitol? Climbing a wall?
Yeah, that's my biggest point. Is that the people that are claiming that these people just walked in thinking they were allowed to walk through, if you were at the back of that crowd or the front of the crowd, you saw the violent confrontation. If you didn't immediately leave, you are guilty. That's my opinion. Because if I see the violence in front of me at the Capitol and I'm just a Trump supporter, I'm out of there. I'm not getting caught 100%. Up in this.
So that's what this guy on Brian's show was saying, was that, oh, well, we didn't see, they gave us orders, but they weren't legal. Clearly, you don't know the definition of a lawful order.
Who gave them orders?
I want to have the guy on our show here.
Well, I don't.
Here, but another day of the week, because I want to eat him alive.
Look, here's the thing. I don't know that it helps, because
hold on a second. His whole defense is that the law enforcement that he encountered, he was working. Actually, he's an actor. Okay, so follow this.
Oh, I know who this is. Yes, I know who this is.
He's the one lady's bodyguard. He was a bodyguard there. And so he's this actor guy. He's writing a book.
Yes, I've seen this guy. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
His argument was that somehow I don't, it's so stupid. I don't get it. I can't even repeat it now. But he said that he did not have to, first of all, he doesn't understand the use of force. Police presence, just a police officer standing there.
It's not a use of force.
It is use of force. That's force.
Well, but
if
it's not
talking to you. Let me finish.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to you and we're in an interview room, this is the usual example, especially for constitutionality, and I tell you that you're free to leave, you don't have to talk to me. But you're not the height that you have and maybe the athletic stature that you've got. I, however, am 6'1", 225 and know how to handle myself. And oh, by the way, I'm between you and the only door in the room.
Yeah.
Do you really feel like you're free to leave?
Well, but are you saying is he claiming that the police standing at the line trying to prevent people from the Capitol are a use of force?
Yes, they are. That is a use of force. Okay. It's not nobody's getting hit.
Well, there's
at
quite
that
a bit of a
point,
difference between keeping someone
but
from getting into a place and getting out
a
of a place,
police
though.
presence is a legal use of force.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
being there.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
And he's trying to say that he did not have to obey these also what are called lawful orders because they weren't relevant to him and his then client. Also not true.
Right.
If I tell you to get down on the ground, but you're not the bad guy,
Doesn't matter.
and you know you're not the bad guy.
Yeah.
And you come at me and say, "No, I'm going to get out of here." But you've got the bad guy's knife or gun in your hand. And subsequently, I drop your ass permanently with a gun. Unfortunately for you, that's a legal shoot.
Yeah.
I don't know you're not the bad guy in that particular example. And you're coming at me as a threat. I'm getting dings like there's somebody messaging me.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting about
Because
that?
he's trying to say that none of that he was set up and all this, that, and the other thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
stop.
Here's
Just
the thing. Here's the thing about arguing with people that think that, first of all, this recidivism of what happened on January 6th is ridiculous from the MAGA crowd. And the thing is, none of their arguments hold water. And the second you poke a hole in it, they just jump to another argument. And it's this circular thing. Because there's only the way I always get them is not get them because they'll never admit it. But the thing is, all you have to do is say, okay, was the election stolen in 2020? That's question one, right?
He swore in a stack of Bibles that was the case too.
Okay, so if the election was stolen, your violence was justified, in my opinion. Like if someone really stole a United States presidential election, I would go violently throw a coup at the Capitol.
No, because there's still a legal process.
No, not if the legal process is corrupted.
Al Gore went through it. Gore went through it.
But it wasn't stolen from him. That's not a stolen election. Like my point is, if there was proof that Joe Biden changed votes or the Democrats somehow changed votes and actually stole the election, like Maduro does, or Putin does. If there was evidence that happened, I will be at the Capitol, and I would say everything you did was justified. But so they answer that question that way, and then they say, but it was a setup by the FBI and the Antifa or whoever they try to say. I'm like, okay, well, which one is it? Were you doing the patriotic thing or was it a setup? Because you can't have it both ways. That's my big problem with it. They want to have it both ways. They want to say it was a peaceful thing. We didn't try to do anything, but the election was stolen. Well, I'm like, look, if the election was stolen, I'd be at the Capitol with you, and I would be demanding, because I care about this country, and I would call that person a patriot if they did that in that situation. But that's not what happened in 2020. Joe Biden did not steal the election. And there's all this Mott and Bailey stuff too, where they say it was stolen. And now if you notice, they say rigged, because now they're saying, well, it wasn't stolen, and then it's Hunter Biden's laptop story and all this stuff that was certainly bad behavior, but not
on their level,
but not stolen. That's bad political behavior. And look,
sorry for the whataboutism, but not bad behavior on their level.
Well, and I think it's bad behavior. I think it's pretty bad behavior.
The projectionism of these people is also crazy because now there's issues with certain behaviors of the Republicans in 2024, besides just lying to the media. And we talked about the one in North Carolina, how there's a legitimate election. I don't understand how Supreme Courts in states can be elected, but North Carolina.
Well, unfortunately, that's the thing where every state gets to set up their stuff, and it does sound like they set it up in a way that they never thought that this could happen, but it can, and that's why you have to. Every law, in my opinion, and every state constitution and our constitution, I think our constitution actually does a very good job of this, has to assume the worst in people. You have to assume that you're going to have a leader that's going to try to abuse this power, and how are you going to check them? We don't assume people are good. Every legal document should assume bad behavior by people and have a check against it. And it sounds like North Carolina's did not. So maybe that'll be something that changes. So going back to sort of the pardon stuff, the problem is Joe Biden pardoned very violent drug offenders in his first that group of pardons that we're not even talking about. Then he pardoned his family who he claims he did so to protect from Trump's prosecution, but his own DOJ was looking to his brother. So that's not a political prosecution if your own Department of Justice.
I'm going to play that same thing that you just played on the maggots, the J6ers. You can't have one or the other. If his own DOJ was looking into both his brother and his son,
I think how's what?
How is that weaponized when he's got his own Department of Justice looking into his own family?
Well, I think that's complicated, and I think we will learn more in the future about what was really going on there. I do think Hunter got over prosecuted on the gun charge because the
100%.
because the DOJ felt like they had to make it seem fair. I think that the reason Hunter Biden got caught up is because
I've been saying that.
Because I do think there is
saying that I've had every federal case I investigated.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, similar to what we're about to have now, my very first one was a felonious convict who literally just got out for the same thing that the U.S. attorney who already prosecuted him the first time, and I got him for the second time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll happen. But here's what's not going to happen.
But here's what
case,
yeah.
My first case and every case thereafter had a laptop or some sort of computer involved.
Yeah. And
some of them guns. Do you know how many made even the local news?
Well, of course, yeah, most of them
zero.
Yeah. But so here's the problem with Joe Biden's hypocrisy is so incredible because he entered office saying he was going to be the restorer of norms, and then he does something no one's ever done before, which is preemptively pardon their family for any and all crimes they committed since 2014. That's
if we're gonna say that he's done something that's never been done before, you also have to admit he's been put in a situation.
No, he has not been. His brother's corrupt.
No, that's fine.
And so is Hunter Biden.
Clinton's brother. So was Clinton's brother. Jimmy Carter's brother was a little questionable.
But
none of them had a successor that literally the entire world was worried about.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. Here's why. Here's why it doesn't matter. Because first of all, Roger Clinton was convicted and had served his time for the crimes that he was convicted for. And look, I'm not saying I agree with it. I think you shouldn't pardon family members even after the fact, because although I'm all for what I think the criminal justice system should do is punish people for their crimes, but the goal should be for those people to enter back into society and be law-abiding citizens. That we should. Or at least that's what I want from it. I mean, now there are certain crimes where I go, no, you don't ever get to see the light of day again, because that we consider that crime bad enough that you don't ever get. And I think there are certain crimes. Look, I think rapists, I think child pornographers, child molesters, I don't think they can be restored. I think that
best they need to be into, Hinckley was in a hospital.
Yeah, right. I don't think you should ever. I don't think you should ever be in society again. In my opinion, for those crimes, because they were crimes that people tend to go back to. Now, I think you can be a drug addict, and you can clean up. Okay, my cousin is a good example. My cousin just got out of prison in Texas for he's bipolar, and he was not on his medication and making poor decisions. And he got arrested a lot. It was always for stupid stuff. It was never anything big. And a judge finally threw the book at him. He was breaking into his own house because his roommate kicked him out, just trying to get his stuff. And, he got a 35-year sentence. That's, I think, obviously that's a personal story for me. We thought it was ridiculous. We fought it for a long time. But once he got in jail, he got on his medication and he's normal again, because if you're bipolar and you're not on medication, you can do things that are not who you really are because your brain doesn't work right.
I ran into a guy. I had to handle a guy at the White House who drove nonstop from Boston to get to the White House to talk to his cousin, Barack Obama. And
I'm guessing he was not actually related to Barack Obama, right?
No, this white Irish guy was not related to Barack Obama.
Barack Obama is half white, just for the record. He could be Irish. We don't know.
But I don't think that is a white half, or excuse me, I don't think that's an Irish half. But anyway, he admitted that he had been on medications and such, but that he's fine. He doesn't need them anymore. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the one that we get all the time because it's embarrassing.
It is. Yeah.
When you're on psych meds, it's embarrassing.
And they need help.
The stigma to that.
It's unfortunate
And
that we have to use the criminal
so
justice system to get them that help, but
that's my
that's where
point.
we're at.
Is that if somebody's been convicted like your cousin and he's not capable of reentering society, then they need to be in some sort of facility where they're going to be medicated.
Yeah.
End of a story. But they can also have some sort of actual life.
Yeah, and we also need to separate people like
Well,
the mentally ill do not need to be with like the gangbangers. Like it doesn't like we don't need to put them in the same place where that can continue to be a problem. So anyway, the point is
but let me finish the
Yeah, okay.
Boston. He comes down, we get a call over the radio that there's this guy who's Barack's cousin and Renegade's cousin, and we got to go talk to him. So we head over, and clearly, I mean, you can smell him from 10 feet away because he probably pissed his pants, because nonstop is just that, nonstop. And when you're coming from Boston to DC, that's a bit of a hike, and probably
he didn't wear the diaper like that NASA lady that went to kill her.
Good question. That's a great question. I didn't get to search him later because the hospital did that.
Sounds fortunate for you.
But what I did do was I convinced him with the medication. I said, the medication that you used to be on, they were not antibiotics. They were like, and I was a little bit less of a fat slob like I am now. They're like the supplements that I take for the gym.
Yeah.
They're a continual thing that not only helps me maintain the level, but actually improves my life. And when I told him that, he couldn't hop in the car and get to the hospital fast enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message. In fact, I ran into the doctor that taught us protective intelligence, the psych, schizoaffective disorders and bipolar and multiple personality, things like that. And I ran into him at a grocery store and I told him that story. He hugs me. And this guy is an instructor in an academy, essentially. He's the founder of the Secret Service, protective intelligence, threat assessment, for psychological. He's the guy who studied John Hinckley after the Reagan attempt. And he hugs me in the grocery store and very humbly asks me if I can use that story in his lessons. I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, of course.
Take that. Make it your story. I don't care. But get this out to the law enforcement and medical community. That is the way we need to approach this, from a much less stigma or stigmatic. Is that a right word for it?
Stigmatized, something like that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Approach.
Yeah.
So anyway, get your point out. And then,
going back to the family stuff, the reason I think it's so egregious is because, again, he's claiming it's because Trump is going to weaponize the Justice Department and go after his brother, but his own DOJ is already investigating him. So to me, there's corruption there, and you're just trying to cover your family's corruption. That's all this really was. He's trying to use the Trump excuse. Now, he uses the Trump excuse, I think, more convincingly for Liz Cheney and Anthony Fauci and AIDS and all these people. But again, I also think what all that did, here's the reason I hate those ones so much, is so it's different. So there's the bucket of the violent offenders that I think was foolish, and I think
I believe we have.
Sorry.
I think it will not be the last we hear of it, because I think one of those violent offenders is going to hurt or kill someone, and it's going to be Biden pardoned this person that was a previously violent offender, and now they've gone and murdered someone. Because it's bound to happen when you release thousands of people without taking a very close look at were they ever charged with violent crimes, and then they just took a plea that didn't include the violence, because that's an important thing, a distinction, I think. And then the family stuff is totally just corruption. It's just, there's no other word for it other than corruption. I understand the sentiment on the January 6th sort of Liz Cheney, that crowd. I understand why Joe Biden considered it. I understand the thought process there, and it's interesting. But what I think that he should, if I were him, what I would have done, and honestly, if I were Liz Cheney or any of these other people that were potentially getting the pardons, I think what I would say, which is easy for me to say because Trump's not coming after me, but here's what I would like to rather see. I'd rather see Trump
I, on the
try to
other hand,
follow.
have had him come after me. So,
But see,
we'll-
I'd rather
we'll probably
Trump.
disagree with that.
I'd rather see Trump actually try to do it. First of all, I don't think he has the attention span to do it. He claimed he was going to go after Hillary Clinton too, and he
Yeah,
never
but
did it.
That's not a risk that I would want to take.
No, but here's the reason I would take the risk is because I think the systems would hold up. There's no, what crime could you possibly charge Liz Cheney of? Now, the point might be to tie her up in a legal battle, but that's why I'd be like, dude, I'd contribute to that legal defense fund right away. That would say, I don't want Liz Cheney, and I don't even like Anthony
but
Fauci.
that's the point. That's the point of why I agree with the pardons, is because you just freed up the legal system. Speaking
No, but I don't think so.
of,
I think you let
um,
Trump hang himself with that rope, is what I'm saying, because I think that what would happen is that we would see, because you can say stuff all you want. You can call Liz Cheney a traitor all you want. But when you have to actually prove it in court, I think Trump would lose every one of those things. I also think what would
how
happen
much
is
you
that.
cost Liz Cheney?
No, that's what I'm saying. We'd set up legal defense funds for these people, and it would be, you don't think Democrats would donate insane amounts of money to these people's legal defense funds? I would. I've never even donated to a campaign, and I would give to Liz Cheney's defense fund.
We can't always just hug it out.
No,
And I
I'm
think
not saying hug it out. I'm saying I want him to have to prove.
Speaking of violent offenders and coming after people, like you're saying that the drug dealers that
Oh, I'll get to Trump's.
clearly will do. Well, we're going to do that right now.
Okay.
This is from CNN and Anderson Cooper talking with, I think this guy was a DC officer who was assaulted on January 6th.
They're already putting restraining orders against.
Pressing play.
Contact with Michael. I appreciate you being with us. I'm wondering when you heard the news and what's going through your mind tonight.
So this is
I just
Michael
heard
Fanone.
the news
This is Michael Fanone, and I'm pretty sure he was DC.
from your producers a few moments ago. I mean, the only thing that that's going through my mind right now is that this is what the American people voted for. Donald Trump has been promising these pardons ever since he announced his candidacy in Waco, Texas, the scene of one of the most notorious battles between American law enforcement and the American extremist movement that resulted in the death of numerous law enforcement officers.
So what he's talking about there is Waco and David Koresh, and when ATF and FBI took literally a tank into the Koresh compound, the Branch Davidian compound. I know people who met this guy, and I've seen his other testimony. You can tell he's pissed.
Of course, he should be,
because he is so. Oh, absolutely, he is so much more articulate than what you're going to see in this interview. Because this, and as he said, Anderson's producers told him about it literally moments before going live. So there's a lot less that's prepared, but he's not even calmed down yet either. And he's pretty much literally talking to the world forever, because here we are, however much longer later, finding this on the internet.
Thanks, America.
This feels like a betrayal to you.
Oh, I have been betrayed by my country. Rest assured, I have been betrayed by my country, and I've been betrayed by those that supported Donald Trump. Whether you voted for him because he promised these pardons or for some other reason, you knew that this was coming, and here we are. Tonight, 6 individuals who assaulted me as I did my job on January 6th, as did hundreds of other law enforcement officers, will now walk free. 6 individuals who have threatened my life and who have made.
what is fascinating about this entire situation? Do you
Oh,
see
I
the
know.
flag
That's the.
that's
I mean, they
flying
were
there?
beating them with thin blue line flags. But here's the thing. It's because they don't really MAGA supporters do not actually care about law and order. They pretend they care about law and order, but they don't. If you cannot say you
Right.
care about law and order, they just, once the law wasn't on their side, the police were the bad guys. The police were the enemy. And you listen to the audio
Right.
from that day and the way they're talking about them. They were calling them treason. They were
Oh,
calling
yeah.
them traitors. They were calling them treasonous. They were saying they should be violent. Like, they were justifying their violence because now that you are on, look, they basically, these are the worst kind of people. They love the police when they're enforcing against people that they don't like. But the second they're
Whenever they need to call
the
911, yeah.
second that they are, they love authoritarianism when it doesn't affect them. But the second, or I mean, not authoritarianism, just like the law and order of, you know, the authorities doing their job. They love it when it's the crime that they think is not affecting them. The second they're the criminals, they're like, no, you're not on our side. You're traitors. That's what's so ridiculous about the January
Right.
6th stuff, and it infuriates me about it. And Trump's pardons of, look, I expected him to like wipe out all the misdemeanor charges, and I still would have been mad about that. I know people don't agree with me that I think every single one of them that got charged should deserved it.
I agree with you, like the grandmas, that we can just look at the totality of the circumstances is another legal phrase that I don't think is being used with a lot of these pardons, and say, okay, you know, grandma, who is a lifelong conservative, really ain't all that bright. Face it, that's
For
an
sure.
element.
And go, I mean, they were lied to. To
And-
be fair, I
and-
want my president to be able to, like, I
Yeah,
want to be able to trust my
exactly.
president, and they were lied to by theirs, and that does bother me. But have you seen the lady that's refusing the pardon? She's like a grandma that was charged with a misdemeanor. Yeah,
Oh, no.
she's refusing it because she says we were wrong and I
Ugh.
deserve it, and I was
Jeez.
not unfairly treated. My judge was wonderful to me, and yes, I had to serve 60 days in jail.
Oh.
And she said, but I'm not accepting the pardon because we deserve, like, I deserve.
Good for her.
Right. Good for her. And I think she's right. And she's
Good
the
for
one
her.
saying, look, like, we were wrong. We were lied to. And this is further gaslighting to make it seem like the people that were responsible for those lies, like, this is just a way for them to go sort of admit that they were wrong. Because look, the truth is Donald Trump and the people around him that lied about the election being stolen are responsible for what happened at the Capitol that day. And they got no punishment for it, but the people at the Capitol did. And I do think that's unfair, but I don't think the way we correct that unfairness is by pardoning the people that did the bad thing. I think you try to hold the people responsible that need to be held responsible. I'm glad this lady's saying we were responsible, but so is Donald Trump
Yeah,
for
you
lying
still-
to us. And we were brainwashed into thinking this was the right thing to do. And we were wrong.
Right. But on the same token, ignorance is not a defense either.
Right, which is why she's not using
You
it
know,
as
just
one.
just because I see a roadblock ahead, and this gets back to the guy that was on Brian's show that tries to say that he could disobey the lawful order.
Yeah.
Just because I see a roadblock ahead, but I have to go to the bathroom, and I know that there's bad guys out. That's why there might be a roadblock, or maybe I don't know that. I can't go busting through the roadblock and hurting.
Yeah, I mean, I will
people.
say there's there's a caveat there. I do agree with you for the most part, except I do think ignorance of the law is becoming harder to, there's just too much law. There's way too many laws. There are way too many regulations. There's way too many ways that the federal government specifically can go after people that did like nothing wrong. In like, I think I mentioned to you before, Neil Gorsuch's new book, which he wrote with someone else, I can't remember her name, is just all about these situations where we've got too much law and it's impossible for even the government to point to these statutes. So how could the people possibly know all of these statutes? And he has all these examples of, one was like Bobby Unser, is that his name? The race car driver from the 80s.
Yeah.
He was out
Yeah, I
snowmobiling
know.
with a pal, got caught in a blizzard. They got lost. They didn't know where they were. They had to eventually ditch the snowmobile. I mean, they almost died. And the federal government,
But that again, that goes back to a level of common sense and the
right?
totality of
But they did
circumstances.
charge him, and he had to
No,
take a
I
plea as
think, you know,
he was a felon because they said, well, you took your snowmobile into a federal area you weren't allowed to, and he was like, we didn't know where we were, we almost died. And like, my point is, like, that is a situation where,
that needs to be thrown
right?
out,
But my
not
point is,
pardoned.
there are situations now where the
It's okay on-
law,
it's okay on video, because I think
Right,
you
but that
get
was
the
not January
point.
6th.
And those, I want to update people that are listening on like radio and whatever, and not seeing what we were looking at. There was a video that we just played part of from CNN, a show called The Source, starring Anderson Cooper, and Michael Fanone is a DC police officer, and they showed the portion where he was helping to defend the Capitol. And it was the video was gray, but there was a bright circle over the area that he was at where he was being assaulted. But in that screenshot is an American flag, a bastardized.
Which I hate when people
actually.
do it
I mean,
in any
that's
way.
that's not a
any
legitimate
way.
flag. And I've got one of those. I've got one of those on my minivan. I'm taking it off. You are not to change on any fashion the American flag.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
So putting an eagle over top of it as far as a decal, that's not okay.
Well,
Putting
technically, you're
Trump
not supposed to be
on
able to
it-
make a decal, but I mean, I'm okay with that.
Exactly. That's correct.
You're not supposed to wear it as a
Yes.
lapel pin, like,
That
but
is-
I'm okay with all that stuff. It doesn't bother me.
A common one that you're going to see or have been seeing is a black and white flag that's clearly the American flag. That is one of the stripes is blue, and that is representative of the thin blue line, a logo that used to be clandestine.
Because it was just a blue
Nobody
line.
used to know what that
It was
meant.
just a blue line.
And that it was a black rectangle, like a flag, with a thin blue line across the middle of it. And that thin blue line represents the law enforcement community separating the darkness of evil with the darkness of the unknown, the people that they protect. And we wore that as a lapel pin
Which
and
I'm
as a
totally
bumper
fine with.
sticker, as a clandestine way of identifying ourselves to other people, to other law enforcement. Well, the people that are assaulting this officer are carrying that black and white flag.
And they didn't just
with a
carry it.
blue line
There's
across the
video of
middle.
people beating the cops with those flags,
Oh yeah,
which is the
Yeah,
ultimate irony.
exactly.
I mean, there's nothing better than that. It's like you don't support the police. You're beating the police right now with your
Right. And to wrap up this set, because we're going to lose a couple of our affiliates in the next 9 minutes. I have two brothers who are Trump supporters. And now this happens. Both my brothers, their wives, my niece and nephew, all have carry permits that they've never had. At least maybe my baby brother did. But none of them had it prior to Donald Trump. And my question, and that's fine. That's still their right.
Yeah, I
Knock
mean, I think
yourself out.
everyone should do it.
I will, because clearly I don't care what you and Matt think. We are at a civil war.
That's fine. I mean, that's not why I carry, but
And you know, it's, you know, I've 21 years in federal law enforcement, and as a member of our nation's intelligence community, I've pissed in a few Cheerios. So, you know, there's that. But these so-called conservatives, the maggots that I think are really the real rhinos, Republicans in name only, that call themselves friendly and supportive of law enforcement, and then they support this guy, like Officer Fanone said. You elected
well, but
this.
they try to justify it in all sorts of ways. There's 3 different ways I've found that they justify it before we get to the top of the hour. And this is just from talking to these people, just to let you know. One way they justify it is that they're like, no, they were basically they were sacrificed to by Nancy Pelosi and the DC police chief and the Capitol Police chief, because like they were under prepared, and they didn't have enough resources there, and that's why they got overrun. So there's that excuse. And then the other excuse is, well, they were in on it. I mean, that's the whole FBI.
Well, who's giving that excuse?
January
Is
6th,
the J6
or defenders of J6ers. Yes. So that's one excuse. Capitol Police were basically sent there as sacrificial lambs because this was the plan all along.
Meanwhile, the Capitol Police are there, rain or shine, sleet or snow,
Well, also
24/7 out in the
also
middle of
my
the
point
street.
is every single event that's ever like this at the Capitol is going to have those people, and there's not normally a violent confrontation between them, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, then the other one is that yeah, well they started it because that's the other thing. They're always like, well they you know, because one of them did, you know, whatever, shot something. I'm like, they had already gone through two barricades before any rubber bullets were fired or any tear gas or any of that kind of stuff was used. They had already gone through two barricades and they were at the last barricade before any of that happened. And by the way, also, just because the police fire riot gear at you does not give you the right to fight back. That's not what the purpose. That's yeah,
That's
that's
what I
the
was
use of
saying
force.
earlier.
And so they do.
The use of force with identified law enforcement, whether it's uniformed
Yeah.
or plain clothes, is the legal authority to use when we say the force that which I deem
Yeah.
necessary. It is whatever you, the bad guy, are using plus one.
Well, and that's the other thing.
If I go plus two, that's
the other thing,
excessive
though. They
force.
claim there were no weapons in the crowd, which is not true. We know there were guns, and we know that like there were situations where they stole a police baton and then beat other police with it. They were stealing police shields and then beating people with it. So, and they had things like sticks, and yeah, they might. I agree, most of them did not have guns, but some of them certainly did because there were guns found on the ground. You know, they were not on the people sometimes, but and then also there's video of when they had people on the ground. I don't know if it was Capitol Police or who, like outside the rotunda or outside the Senate chamber, I think it was, or the House chamber. I think it was the Senate chamber. And they have them on the ground and they start searching them, and several of them had large knives on them. So people absolutely did have weapons.
Yeah.
So that's another way they justify it, though. They say, no, they used excessive force for a peaceful crowd that didn't have weapons. And that's when the chaos started. It's not true. You can go back and look at it.
That gets back to the guy that was on Brian's show. That this all just developed into a big misunderstanding. Really? You usually walk through DC streets with a Bowie knife in the small of your back, which, by the way, is illegal on any day in DC.
And so the reason I can't say that one set of pardons is worse than the other, but the reason I think that both Biden's pardons of specifically people like Liz Cheney and
I'm going to cut you off there because one, we got to wrap up, but also this one, and this isn't me being the libtard of the show today. Trump's pardons are with known felons who tried to commit a coup. Again, this wasn't just some misunderstanding. This wasn't a riot. This was an insurrection and then some, because there's other things that if these people had their head out of their rear end and didn't put their head in the sand, they could have known that the Trump administration was planning all of this as far back as September 2020.
Which is why I think the Proud Boys and
the election was even stolen. How can you be planning for something that hasn't happened yet? Unless it's a surprise birthday
that's my problem
party.
with both of them is that they're assuming the bad intent of the other people for the excuse to do something bad themselves, and that's why I think it's a bad precedent, is because it keeps escalating.
Here's the difference: Trump's plans had no precedence and need for it to be put
Neither
into
did
place.
Biden's. No,
Biden's
I disagree.
did.
I think they're both really bad precedents. I think that, like,
I'm not saying that they're not bad precedents, but at least, for lack of better terms, you can explain away what Biden felt.
No, because
he had to do.
now Trump will use that to pardon his entire administration or every Republican in Congress.
Yes.
And he will be able to justify it by saying the next Democrat is going to come after these people, so I've got to protect them. He's going to do the same thing Joe Biden did, and we'll keep defending it as long as they have the right letter after their name. And that's what really bothers me. I think we got to take away the pardon power in some degree. I hope that
that's where history is going to have to fix it. We're going to wrap up this hour with 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio, the Tan Talk Network in Vegas. We lose them all after the first hour. However, there's a whole second hour and still a long list of things we got to get to. Switch over to Yergz Radio, YERGZ radio.com, and listen to us there, or on so much of our social media. We're already streaming to it if you want to watch the video, or some of our Facebook pages, so we could cut back on the number of destinations that we stream to. We just put our video player pinned to the top of the page. So go anywhere, Yerg's Radio, Up the Middle, Yerg's, my personal page, wherever, you will see us there somehow in one way or another. And then meanwhile, you can get us, if you got to run as well, you can get us at, let's see, where's everything? Matt, who wasn't able to make it today, and he won't be here next week either. Matt at dailycryptonews.net, info@demarforcongress.com. You can get Blake. He's the host of The Homeless Conservative, at Blake at thehomelessconservative.com. You release what? Once, sometimes twice a week?
Yeah, I'm gonna maybe start doing a live stream next week and a normal show. So I'm hoping.
Are you finally going to come over to Yerg's
I think
Radio
the
with
live
us?
thing might be the right thing to do that with. Yeah, because it's a little more.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little more structured. So we'll see. I gotta get it off the ground first, but.
Well, let's get a call together and talk about it. Just put some stuff out there. I mean, talk out loud together. Also, Tan Talk's letting us know we got 2 minutes. For show notes and other information on all of us, go to yergz.com, YERGZ. Everybody still wants to spell it with the S. That's Michael. I think Michael Yergz. My brothers, who I'm not going home to Christmas for this coming year, use the S, I think. But Yergz, YERGZ.com, and mastiff.media. And then finally, if you just need to get a hold of any of us or all of us collectively, you can email us at news, NEWZ. We like the Z.
We're sticking with the Z.
Running thing. News, NEWZ at yergz.com. When we come back, we let's see, we did the Fanon thing.
I've got lots of things I want to ask you too.
Yeah, you got some things on the list, but also Republicans are already, and I said this was going to happen too. They're lobbying for a third
To be fair,
term.
one Republican, but
Yeah, and not enough to make the constitutional adjustment. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us up the middle and running with the big dogs. We'll see you in a couple minutes or on Monday. Be right back. That's not a video. That is. Hey, what's in your wallet? Well, I'll tell you what's in mine, and it should be in yours. Capital One. My credit card with Capital One has $0 fraud liability for any unauthorized use. 0. Flexible due dates. Look in your wallet. See if it's there. Or go to my Facebook page and click on the affiliate link. You get checked for pre-approval. You can apply for the card and enjoy. So that's still up. There we go. In this next hour, one Republican, and to be clear about if we do show any of this video, and I don't think we will, one of the other journalists like us that I use for information sometimes, I don't know what's going on with my camera either, but for this on the video, it keeps blacking out and you see the black screen with the word Elgato. That's the brand of my video card. So I'm thinking because that is still transmitting, because you see that brand across the screen into the computer, that it's probably my camera, which is a Sony, which it damn well better not be, or the cable, the signal from the camera to the computer. Anyway, I'm also seeing that something else. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's back. We're on Chatter. You can get us, message me, news, NEWZ, at yergz.com. All right, about to lose the voice. Message me, news, NEWZ, at yergz.com, and we'll get you an invite to Chatter. That is a really cool up-and-coming social media, social audio platform that actually has video. I don't like calling it social audio because it does have a very good video component. You can get us on Discord by going to the Yerger Group server, going down to the voice channels and finding Up the Middle every time we go live, every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. Ken and Travis checking in. Seems like they aren't taking accountability. I think we're going back to the pardons, which is something MAGA never does, really. Yeah. I mean, it's rare that I hear any MAGA dude or dudette admit a mistake. Travis giving us a shout out saying good morning. You can see his show Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern on his Facebook channel for The Point by Travis Evans. Just do a search for that, and I promise you'll find it. What else? We did some of the commercials, which I realized we didn't do any commercials in the first hour. I got to use that clock better. God. Philip Blackett joins me every Wednesday for Up the Middle, Translating Trump. He is our resident Trump boy. You know, he was stuttering a little bit this past Wednesday, and I feel bad because I'm usually pretty hard on Blake, being a conservative who doesn't side with Trump, and yet we still manage to find incredible disagreements. Philip, not that Blake isn't a civil person, and I should probably let him come out to defend himself. But Philip and I just don't get into it the way Blake and I do. And dude, why is that?
It's because I'm way more argumentative. That's why.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Not a
Guilty.
mystery. I mean, I've been guilty of that my whole life, which is fine. I mean, I also have, I think the difference is, Phil's also not one of those people that's like just blindly defending every Trump move ever. I mean, like, you can vote for the guy and also be able to be like, I don't like that thing. He's more willing to do that. And so it's always more reasonable when someone can do that. I think that's my biggest problem with most MAGA people, is that they just defend every action. I was actually hoping Phil would be on today because I wanted to ask him, like, what are his lines in the sand? What are the things that Donald Trump could do?
Well, that's what I want to get back to before we get into the other things, is that I'm sure you know, because you're from an overall Republican and conservative family.
Yeah. And
I'm sure you've got somebody in your family that is not a homeless conservative and supported the Trump administration.
Oh, I mean, yes.
Are you the black sheep? Is what you're saying?
No. I'm not the black sheep. I
mean, as far as that goes, so you have other family members that are also not Trump supporters but still Republicans, or
I would say I would bet that most of the people I know would fall into the category of they voted for him this time because they felt like the binary choice was obvious. And I think that all the Democrats.
That's what he was saying. That's what Phil was.
Yeah, I think that. Look, there were even. I'm not saying I considered voting for Trump. I think the Democrats behaved so badly over the last 4 years that I give anyone a pass for voting for Trump this last time, even though I think January 6th is unforgivable. I think lying about the election was unforgivable. I also think trying to hide Joe Biden's decline was worse somehow. Not worse, but it's like, it's understandable that it drives you to the other party. I think they just really failed over the last decade of doing things that voters cared about. And so I think most of the people I know fall into that bucket. Now, some of them are a little more enthusiastic than I think that anyone should be for a politician. I don't like Obama flags, just like I don't like Trump flags. I think they're both creepy because I don't think we should be elevating people to that idol status.
Mind the flags. I don't mind the flags so much as I don't like them being partnered with the American flag, like we talked about. And that's something I've really come to realize is not right. And what helped me do it was during the Biden administration, when I don't think he was near as far off the rails as Trump was, or as Trump is being now. People were flying the flag in my neighborhood upside down because they felt that they and the country were in distress because a Democrat is in the White House. No, it's not distress. Spend minutes with me. And
I also think that flying the flag upside down, if you want to do that as a political statement, yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I think it's
I don't have a problem with it with the freedom of speech aspect of it. But I don't think that you're really showing.
I disagree that we're not in distress. But if that's how, that's how you want to protest, I'm fine with it.
No, not distress. Flying the flag upside down as a part of distress means you need immediate help now. You're dying. That's what flying the
I know.
flag upside down
That's why I
means.
think it's foolish.
And this country was not dying. This country came back from a pandemic that could have been much less horrific had the guy who first faced it got off his ass and
I
done
don't
so.
think so. I think we would have had the same COVID response. I think the federal
No.
government was
No.
bad at it.
Shut the country down. Shut the whole country down. You're going to be unpopular for it. But if you
was a
listen to
bad move.
science,
That was clearly the bad
anything
move here.
that-
We can talk about COVID, but that was the bad move. That's why we're having the repercussions we had. That's why Joe Biden lost. Honestly, I know that sounds because that was all Democrats that wanted to shut that down.
because of a lot of Republican
No, there was
lies.
no excuse for shutting schools
Had
down.
every booster. I have had every booster since I've got the first shots for COVID. And I've had COVID. And by the way, these viruses aren't a shield that prevent you from coming in contact with it at all.
Vaccines.
You
Yeah.
will still get it. You will still
But
carry it. You will
We
transmit
hold
it.
on.
But as long as you have the
Yerks,
vaccine,
we were lied to
you
about that
will have
though by Democrats.
much-
Yes, we were.
No,
Yes, we were.
no.
Rachel Maddow got
I
on TV
never thought
and
I-
said, "You will."
she's not a
Yes, she is.
Democrat. She's not a Democrat.
progressive
She's not a
hack. She is
government
a
official.
mouthpiece for the Democratic Party.
Yes, exactly. No, she's a mouthpiece for Rachel Maddow. Just
Don't
like
tell me
Tucker
that
Carlson.
Fox News is a mouthpiece for Trump and
Yeah.
not the MSNBC isn't for Biden. That's ridiculous, Yergs.
Not for Trump and Biden, but for right and left.
Well,
Fox does not care about Trump.
they do. They absolutely care
cares
about
about
Trump.
Fox.
They only care about Trump.
Cares about Fox. I saw them on the pressurizer roll their eyes.
I know,
At
but that's
Donald
how they're
Trump.
making money right now is by defending Donald
But
Trump.
that's the only conservative one they got. So that's the one they got to
No,
push.
look, here's the thing. Here's the problem. COVID.
Let me get through all these.
Okay.
Let me get through all these QR codes first. The one on the side of the screen is, and I can't give you read this one out because it's it's for Amazon. It's all of his books, which are pretty amazing. Look, he supports Trump, but he's not a dummy. And that's why I think we can save him. But his books are pretty amazing. He's a really bright guy. Check them out. Also at the top left corner of your screen is buyblackett.com/Yergs. You can go to that one without the QR code. Buy as in purchase Blackett, the color, ETT.com/Yergs. That's where I got my coffee mug. This one right here. I got another one like it over on the drain board because I have no dishwasher right now. So I got to do all this stuff by hand in my bathroom because I can't even use my kitchen sink. There's an electric sensor that's on to turn off the on and off the kitchen sink. And that's broken because it's corroded with salt water. And I haven't been able to get that changed out yet. So I can't use my kitchen sink. So I've been washing dishes in my bathroom since October.
That's a bummer.
Anyway, that's those. And then also BizGrowth. Get on this site. If you have any sort of business, again, up in the top corner of the screen, bizgrowthcollective.com is the next LinkedIn. Now, I told you that our country was at a civil war, and I think we're kind of proven that at least we're pretty damn close. We're definitely in a world war, and I've been saying that. I told you Trump was going to make the move for a third term. It's happening this week. This application, bizgrowthcollective.com, will replace LinkedIn as the ideal business-to-business networking opportunity. Get on there, get your account. What you'll need is an EIN. That is a social security number for a business. It's issued by the IRS. It's a earned income number. And you'll need a Florida address because it's in beta. Hit me up. I'll let you use my address. But I promise you want to get it because actually we didn't get a chance to do it today, but we're actually going to broadcast the show to this channel. They've got a 24-hour chat room. That's an actual room. There's a visual on the screen. You can go sit at a table and talk to just some person sitting at that table. Or you can sit at a larger table and talk to everybody sitting at the larger table and still hear the people on stage talking to the entire group. Pretty amazing. Very well done. And just so much other networking things. What you don't see are the stupid posts that you see on LinkedIn that are pro-Trump or pro-Biden or something that's absolutely nothing to do with business. You don't get that there. None of it. And then finally, if you think I'm a celebrity, that's awesome. I can send you a message for a mere $5, and I will send you a message on Cameo that you get to keep for free. It can be a happy birthday. It can be I can roast you like you were some dumbass on a phone call or something, or whatever. Just scan that code or go to cameo.com/Yergs/book, as in schedule me. So that's that one. All right, back to it. To wrap up the J6 pardons. Yeah, Ken's siding with you. That's a good question to ask Phil. He goes by Philip, by the way, if you're talking about Philip Blackett. He's not a Phil. I do want to know what his breaking point is when it comes to Trump. Yeah, and with regards to networks, he also says that Newsmax, cares only for Trump. That one, I will say, is more Trump. I believe Fox is more right-wing and MSNBC is more left-wing. They are for Biden or Trump and Biden, respectively, because that's all who's there
Right,
at the
but
time.
I mean, yeah,
As soon as there was a primary, like you've got me turned over to that. If there was a primary that and Biden was true to the word that he insinuated, then I think MSNBC would have had to pick and choose and find one that
they
they really
lied
supported.
about him on the air to keep a primary from happening, Yergs. They were all in on Biden. They're not about Democrats. This was lying about his fitness for office. And honestly, you know who I'm pissed at this week is Mike Johnson for admitting on the Free Press that he had a conversation with Biden where Biden didn't know an executive order he signed stopped LNG exports. He thought it was for research. And he was like, I'll go get the thing and we'll read it together. And he said, I believe Biden wasn't lying. I think people were putting stuff in front of him, telling him it was one thing, and then he was signing it. It was really another thing. I think another really interesting article I read that I had never really thought of, just speaking of Biden, was no one ever got fired or left his administration. I think it's because they knew they couldn't can someone because they would go on air and say Biden's lost it. The White House is being ran by aides, and the president is not in charge of his faculties and stuff. And I think that's why no one ever left. Even look, I think that Lloyd Austin should have probably resigned after his being in the hospital and not telling the president of the United States where he was. He should have resigned. And I don't have a problem with Lloyd Austin being the Secretary of Defense, but that was wrong. He was on medication that could have impaired his ability to do the job. He should have resigned.
That was
for medical reasons. He should have resigned, and he should have resigned for not telling the president. And but
he should have resigned because of the very bad mistake that he caused. Now, I'm not for, something happened under my watch, I'll resign. That's the right thing to do. No, the right thing to do is to fix it.
But in that case, because it was
when you're the cause of the bad thing, then you know what?
I think Pete Buttigieg might have needed to resign for some of the transportation stuff that happened under his watch. I think that the right thing to do would have been, so he should have been fired or resigned, in my opinion. I think that we had enough gigantic transportation problems, but
he fixed a lot. He's the reason why the bridge in Baltimore is being rebuilt as quickly as it is. He had a bridge. He said a bridge in Philadelphia fixed in a weekend.
I'm just saying. I think that the fact that there were none of them, I think lends credibility to the fact that Biden didn't know what was going on, and the Democrats defended that, and so did the media, MSNBC, all of them. Look, there's an article out today.
Facts that there were none of what. And I'll let you finish this thought because we got to get back to some of the other things, a long list of other. But the fact that there were none of. Well, there was a podcast, and I read an article quoting the podcast with two former Politico writers that said they were told explicitly that stories they worked on for months were not allowed to be ran about anything to do with Biden leading up to the election in 2020. They had the Hunter Biden laptop story. They canned it. They eventually left Politico because this was coming from on high at these political places. They were protecting Joe Biden. That's not the press's job. That's not Joe Biden's fault.
I'm not saying that's Joe Biden's fault.
That's their fault.
I'm saying that is why people like Trump, is because they have felt like they were lied to about COVID. They felt like they were lied to about Biden. They felt like they were lied to about everything, and they were. They were lied to.
because Trump said anything. Trump
Oh,
said Trump's a
No,
reliable
I'm not saying
source.
Trump is a reliable source.
Anybody,
I'm saying that here's what happened.
source.
Like, here's in my opinion, the story of the last 4 years is basically the trust in legacy media tanked during COVID and in the 2020 election, and certainly through Biden's administration. And it moved to alternative media like podcast and YouTube and things. And the legacy media obviously don't like that, but they have no one to blame but themselves. They tried to lie, it didn't work. Now,
Well,
Trump lies
100%.
all the time
And
too.
this is-
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, this has happened before. When I was in San Francisco, and for perspective, I was in the San Francisco office between 2003 and 2007. So 4 years. My friend Wyatt worked for the San Francisco Chronicle, one of the biggest newspapers on the whole West Coast. They were already going under because of online newspapers. And he was in ad sales. He says, I can't give ads away because you people are artifacts. You need to get an online presence. And he called this, the internet wasn't even really anything back in the early 2000s. Nothing like what it is now. And he called this, he said this was going to happen. And these people get so entrenched into what they do every day. You know, and it's in government too. My friend Bruce McLean, and not the one from Die Hard, but he was actually a real agent, was my shift later on the Clinton detail when I first arrived there. He left the Secret Service because when he left the Clinton detail, he was sent to headquarters to a division called ISD, stands for Investigative Support Division. The guy was a research nerd, so it was a perfect place for him to do research for investigations and whatever else in the field. He was also a former immigration agent. And he was tasked with the opportunity to rewrite a section of the Secret Service manual that did whatever it did with regards to immigration and how we handle immigration cases, you know, suspects with immigration. He rewrote the entire section that is in conjunction with immigration. And when he submitted it to supervisors, he was told that's not what we do. And he's like, I know. You've been doing it wrong for 150 years.
Right.
This is what immigration policy and law requires. A week later, and keep in mind, he just got to ISD from the Clinton detail, so he's not finished with his assignment yet. A week later, a boss comes to him and says, we need to know what your preferences are. He's like, well, I just got here. Yeah, there's a shakeup. You know, there's going to be everybody sent elsewhere. So he gives them choices of other places in headquarters, training, Washington field office. And they're like, no, we need to know what cities you want to go to. You're leaving DC. Clearly, this was retribution for doing what he was told.
Which I will
And
say
so
is
we're
maybe the only the one thing I'm maybe excited isn't the right word, but I go the Trump administration could do the shakeup in the federal bureaucracy could be a good thing. I'm not saying he's going to go about it the right way necessarily, but I do think that needs, like, I mean, look, the Secret Service alone, let's just talk about the Secret Service. I mean, it needs a real shakeup, not like this is one of those things where I would go, you know, like I'm Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. I'm like, I don't know if I want someone no experience. I'm for like someone with no experience coming in the Secret Service and going, I'm cleaning house. We are changing the way we do this because Trump almost got assassinated twice. It's a miracle Obama didn't get assassinated.
So yeah, I've got. Let me stop you right there. And I'm saying to the rest of the world, hold my beer. We screwed up in Butler, and I say we still, you know, emotionally.
I get it. Yeah,
with the Secret Service.
I'd be pissed if I were you.
I am not convinced at all that he was hit.
That's
by
a conspiracy
anything.
theory, Yergs. He clearly got hit by something. There's video. We've got video of it.
It's we don't have
Yes, we
squat.
do. We've got video of
We
it.
have what has been
No,
given to us.
By who?
He has blood on his ear.
No.
What appears to be
the New York Times.
Nobody
No.
did it. Nobody put a real bandage on it because the next day he was golfing with no bandage on his ear, no scar on his ear, And then he appears the days after that, the immediate days after that, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, at the Republican National Convention with a bandage on his ear the size of a credit card.
Yerks, he absolutely got hit with something. He got hit with a bullet too. It wasn't the conspiracy theory was it was a piece of the teleprompter
No,
glass. The New York Times has a picture,
No.
a frame by frame picture of it hitting him in the ear. It's not a conspiracy theory. Now it barely nicked him.
Not from
I
that.
might have.
And there's another shooter, because a rifle round, if it barely nicks you, is still going to tear you up.
Not if it's
Where you're not going to be able to go golfing and be miraculously praise Jesus. He was
not a
saved by an angel
223.
heel.
A 223 could clip your ear and just take a tiny little piece off, and you would bleed more. I agree. Maybe the bandage was overkill.
So where's the
What?
scab? Where was the scab?
No, I agree with you. Look, you don't have.
Where was the scab the next day when he was golfing?
I mean, I haven't seen that picture, but Yerks, he absolutely got hit with something. The New York Times has a frame by frame thing. Do you think the New York Times is lying on Donald Trump's behalf? I don't buy that.
No, they're being told to put that in. This is another thing.
And Yerks, regardless of if he got hit or not.
We all have hooks. And so the connections that I got that are in commercial, in corporate America and still in the government, that's nothing compared to what somebody in the White House got.
But Yerks, even if, let's just say that you are correct and Donald Trump got hit with no bullet, he still is only a head turn away from being assassinated that day. The Secret Service failed.
So 100%.
So my point is that, like, first of all, that thing did hit him. I agree it wasn't a grave injury, but it grazed his ear only because he turned his head. If he hadn't turned his head, that's going straight through his head. He's dead. It was a failure. And by the way, if that was the only failure, it's a different conversation. It's this thing after thing. We had the Brazilian prostitute problem. We've had people get into the White House under Obama. Yeah. There's been a lot of failures, and I think it's they're not training them enough. They need more funding.
But one of the things exactly after 9/11, Congress wanted to bitch out the FBI and the CIA for the intelligence failure.
And the FBI needs a lot of reform too.
Yeah, but they were smart enough to turn around on Congress and said, "This is your fault. If we were funded properly, we would have been able to foresee that happening. We would have been able to stop it." And Congress was like, "Oh, maybe they're right. Oh, we got to think about this." So what happened was they both get funded. And during the rest of the Bush administration alone, they stopped more than 100 9/11 equivalent attacks.
Yeah, unfortunately, for the most part, we don't get to know about a lot of times, right? But we do know about some of them, though, to be fair. And you're right.
Correct.
And that's why Secret Service needs more funding.
Well, here's this whole Secret Service thing again. You talked about the prostitutes in Colombia and the guy that fell asleep in a hallway in Europe, in a hotel hallway in Europe. I was there for that. It was another country, but I was in Belgium, which was the next stop after that one. Stuff like that happens literally every day in the FBI.
Right, but the difference is the FBI isn't charged with protecting.
Realize why. Yeah, but realize why. There are more FBI agents in Washington, D.C. than there are Secret Service agents.
Period. Yeah, no, for sure.
So the possibility of some 8-ball getting into the FBI and, I don't know, murdering his neighbor, which is an actual case that happened in D.C. that the world never knew about.
Which, by the way, is going to happen in every profession. Every profession. You're going to have pedophiles. You're going to have rapists.
And my point is, the FBI knows how to make it go away a hell of a lot better than the Secret Service.
I think that's the problem. Is there's a malaise problem. There's two problems at the Secret Service, in my opinion. I mean, if we only had to boil it down to two, it's a lack of training, because the compromise after 2012 was, okay, we need to get. They wanted to say, hey, you need 25 hours of training. I think that was what they wanted. They end up getting 7, and then they're not even doing that.
What compromise was that?
Well,
don't
so
even know that
basically,
one.
so
What
there was a
conference?
big commission. I think it was in 2012. I think there was a commission basically after some of the Obama stuff, because that was after like a guy got in an elevator with him, someone got in the White House. There was the prostitution stuff.
That okay. So here's the stuff that you never hear about. People get in elevators like that all the time because as much as we say we use this verbiage that I hate, but we use it anyway. We'll during the walkthrough with the supervisor, we'll say, "All right, sir. So this part of we own this end of the hotel. We don't own squat." But what he's saying is, our people, be they agents or senior staff of the president, are the ones inhabiting the rooms in that end of the hotel.
Yeah.
So anybody comes in that inside the hotel, we know who they
Yes.
are, and we would be checking them anyway. And if they're not, we can turn
Yeah.
them around. But when people get into elevators, such as the Obama example, we know there's actually a manifest. This is who's getting in the elevator. If you ain't on this list, I don't give a good goddamn who you
Right.
are. You ain't getting in. Until some college kid who's the staffer that day gives somebody else the okay. And we have to go with that.
Yeah, but but
That's
it's
what
still
happened with the Obama elevator situation.
yeah, but there still shouldn't be someone with a gun in an elevator with the president without the Secret Service being aware of it. If they're aware of it, I'm okay with it because he was law
Happens every
enforcement.
day.
But like, you know what I mean?
Happens every day.
I know, but I don't like it.
And it's because we're handcuffed by the politics inside the White House.
Yeah, but that's something I think needs to change. Like
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with Congress saying no,
Preach,
aides
Reverend.
can't do
Preach.
that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying. So, and then I think there's a malaise problem too. There's people covering. There's like, oh, this. It's like, which happens in every institution, by the way. It happens everywhere where people are always going to cover for their buddies. It's just like,
Yeah.
but the truth is, some heads need. I mean, the fact that again, that the head of the Secret Service did not resign like the day after the Butler thing.
So there again, I'm not for that. She should have changed her schedule and not gone out to Colorado or wherever it was.
Yeah, I can see that point that you think they should fix it instead of
They got to be, they and their senior team need to be the first ones on the ground saying, okay, let's see what happened here.
I think the problem though is that once you lose that trust of the people, and in this case, you are a servant to the citizens of the United States. I think the right thing is to do is say like, I'm resigning. I will help the next person with anything they need help with, but this happened under my watch and it's unacceptable. Because unfortunately, the Secret Service has they can't fail ever. It's not like senators. It's not like all these other things where their failure rate has to be zero because
Oh boy, if only you knew.
and we got way too close with Trump twice and we got I
Well,
think too
okay.
close with Obama a few times.
That's the other thing about the second one with Trump. That dude never had a chance because we were much better on our toes that day.
But my question is if his gun wasn't sticking out of the fence line, would they have seen him?
Yes, he was in a bright pink shirt.
And then how did the Secret Service
That's
miss?
why they saw him.
But at point blank, I've heard it was because the rifle was sticking through the chain link. But
No,
okay.
no, he was in a bright
Okay.
pink shirt.
And then
in a
but then the
pink
Secret Service misses at point blank range. He fires how many shots and misses the guy from like 8 feet away
I don't know. I don't remember the rest of it.
because he
but
traded fire. So I'm like, I
know they exchanged gunfire.
and we saw the lady that couldn't holster a gun. Like they need more training. Like there
Yeah,
needs to be
so-
funding for training. I am happy to pay for a Secret Service agent to sit in a room and practice holstering their weapon for 8 hours straight
I
to
did
get
it.
it down.
I
Yeah.
did it.
I do it,
I
and I'm
was
not a
in
Secret
training.
Service agent.
When I was in training, there was something that and I didn't know till later. The particular drill, the particular drill that we were in was the hallway, the hotel scenario where we're in a hotel hallway and we've got this mock hotel hallway, and at the end of the hallway is an elevator landing with real elevators that our instructors, take over and use for the drill. And terrorists come out of the elevator and charge the hallway. I was the first guy at the end of the hallway. I took on 4 SWAT team members and died. And they wanted to fire me because I made some tactical error. And it's only because I actually, sorry, it's only because I actually fought back that I wound up graduating and had a 21-year long career. They wanted to fire me because of, the fact that I died in the line of duty.
But I think that shows the acceptance level at the Secret Service has changed significantly since you were put in.
Yeah,
it, don't you
I
think?
think so.
And
Well,
I'd rather go back to that. I think the problem is it's a thankless job. The Secret Service, the one Secret Service agent I know other than you, quit and went to the FBI, even though he was like, it just sucked. He was like, it was brutal.
And
He was like, and I'm taking a
when I
pay cut.
started-
Yeah.
When I started, the FBI, the DEA, ATF, the big letters, Marshal Service, were all the agencies to go to.
Well, and normally you had to be at one of those places before you could be Secret Service a lot of times,
No.
or at least local police. You had to be, right? I mean,
You would have to be a cop or military, something like that,
Yeah.
some sort of life experience. And usually, even though it's not required, usually part of that would be a college degree. But by the time I left Philadelphia, which was only after 3 years, to go to San Francisco, we were getting people leaving us left and right to go to agencies like the postal inspectors.
Yeah.
Or this OIG or that OIG. For those of you that don't know, OIG stands for Office of Inspector General. It's like the internal affairs of a cabinet level department. And the point of that being was they're still also federal agents. They still, when they go down to Disney with family on vacation, they still carry a gun on a plane.
Yeah, Treasury carries. I mean, I know Secret Service under
Everything.
Treasury, but even just normal Treasury guys.
Federal, every
Yeah.
federal responsibility. They still got take-home cars. So for 21 years, I didn't have to drive my own car back and forth to work, and
It's a
fill the gas tank.
A
and
little
get it
less
made.
stressful than like being in a different town every day. And like, I think that,
But these others are also only working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
I get it.
had my buddy Jeff was, I won't say who, other than Jeff, was in one of our smaller offices. And all that office was a desk inside another federal agency. That's his everyday office. He's in there 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. for the same pay that these other agency people are coming in for at 10 a.m. and they're gone by 2 with golf clubs in the
Golf,
back seat of their cars.
Yeah.
We
And so,
would get our privileges for a car yanked so fast if a boss found a set of golf clubs in the back of our car.
but I think that level is not there. And so I'm hoping that not just the Secret Service, that's just the one we've been picking on right now because it's what you're familiar with, and it's the one that has the most egregious, like, public failure in the last year too. But that's my only, going into this Trump administration, I am a little like, I do think the federal government needs to be really shooken up. I think, and it's across the board, by the way. FBI needs a lot of help. It's been bad. I don't think Kash Patel is the guy to reform the FBI, though.
No.
Don't think it's going to work.
No.
I think all of them need there's a lot of malaise. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of entrenchment of, well, this is what I've always done. And therefore we don't like change. And they're trying to push back on that.
Yeah.
And look, the president is your boss. And look, there's nothing, people are up in arms about him firing or stopping the DEI stuff or pausing hiring or all this kind of stuff, making him come back to work. Frankly, the president of the United States is your boss. Like it comes like eventually up the chain. He's the boss. And I hope that this is something where it can actually shake that up. My concern is what will happen is you'll have more of this like resistance BS where those agencies try to thwart the will of the president. And I kind of feel like what you have to do is if you work for the president and he asks you to do something that's illegal or that you don't want to do, you do it or resign. Like those are the options. You don't try to like back channel it. You don't try to like circumvent it. You don't try to like you.
Now, if it's an illegal, you stop it without question.
If you resign.
I've been investigated. No, you don't resign. You stay there and you fight it. I've been investigated 3 times by the Secret Service for what they were trying to allege was inappropriate conduct. I was able to prove it was nothing more than the fact that I was gay.
Yeah,
Two of those
I'm not saying no, that's
two of
different.
those
I'm saying
investigations came during the Trump administration.
yeah, I'm saying from Trump though. I'm saying like if Trump writes an executive order that says this is like you don't or says this
Yeah,
is
you
the
fight it.
I mean,
Because that's again, damn it, listen to that goddamn podcast.
as soon as I get time I will. But yeah, so I mean
Make time. It is a priority, and not just for this show, but I think it would really help the homeless conservative.
oh,
Not
I
just
mean,
for Diamond Lake, as long
I
as
am
the
fully
thing is
aware of most of that stuff that went on. I mean, I just haven't heard that specific podcast. But yeah, I mean, I know. So, but here's
No,
the other thing.
I'm sure there's stories in there that you will not have heard of.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and just the whole concept. I know you know about like what they call the adults in the room and whatever.
Yeah.
But
But even
there
those are
was
people that I
a
disagree.
frequent discussion about what they should do.
Right. But and
It came down to if we do leave, and we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
They're gone.
I know, but don't you
John
think,
Kelly's not back.
right? But don't you think? But here's my question, and I think this is a good. I mean, we'll never know the answer to it, so it doesn't. But it is an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Don't you think the adults in the room that tried to keep Trump on the rails and succeeded in doing so a lot of times gave the impression that his first administration wasn't that bad because a lot of things could have gone worse if we let Trump go by his worst
because
instincts.
and here's where I agree. With what was his name? Damn it. The officer that we just talked to or just heard from on Anderson's show. America failed. We had 40 out of 44 cabinet members, to include the vice president, say not only is this guy not qualified, just being on The Apprentice isn't enough of a war room to be in the president's war room.
Well, to be fair,
But
not
this
all of
guy
them
is
came out
a
against him. They just didn't
danger.
endorse him. Yeah. To be fair,
This
all
guy
four,
is a danger.
yeah, but to be fair, all 40 of them didn't come out and say that. There were 40 of them that didn't endorse him. Some of them were acting. Some of them.
What's the difference?
Well, there's a slight difference.
And you said it yourself. When we get a cabinet member, as long as they're not criminally bad, they should get the rubber stamp, and it should be the onus should be on the president to make that person perform or not. But when 40 out of 44 people got that rubber stamp and said, no, he's not only not qualified, he's a danger. The entire Joint Chiefs, with the chairman coming out and calling him a wannabe dictator.
Oh, I know.
You knew damn well who he was talking about.
I know, but the problem I think
John
is that,
Kelly saying this guy's crazy.
of course, but here's the
No
thing.
other president in history has had that much resistance by their own people.
Right, but here's the problem. Most people in America that voted in November do not know who John Kelly is. That's just the plain truth. 80% of them probably don't know John Kelly's name.
Here's one of the statements I made. God, coming up on 2 years ago. You no longer have to be able to spell Google to be able to use it.
I'm not.
So this officer is 100% right when he said America failed themselves.
Yes,
This is the asshat that we voted for.
yeah, but you know that you've gotten onto me for blaming voters for stuff before, and so you're right. I wish the American citizens were more informed. I think that this country would be different if we were better informed, if we had better civics, history, all that kind of stuff. I think that we would be better citizens. We're not right now. That the blame really always lies with us, the citizens of the United States, because we've elected these people and we allow things to continue that are bad. My point is that people like John Kelly, the people that basically, there were people that, there'd be something on his desk. They would try to steal the thing from his desk so he wouldn't sign it. Like that's how they were trying to circumvent stuff. And what it did is it made Trump's administration.
I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying it was necessary.
Yeah, right, okay. Right. And I'm not saying they were morally wrong. I get what they were trying to do. And I understand, even at the time, I was like, well, I'm glad he's surrounding himself with some adults. I'm glad people were like, I'm going to go serve in this administration. I'm going to help try to guide him. But the problem, I think, is, and I've been more convinced of this, that what that did is it didn't give us the unchained Trump. And I think if we would have gotten the unchained Trump, that first administration would have gone much worse. And there's not a chance that he would have gotten reelected in 2024. Because I think the problem is when it came to 2024, they went, okay, Joe Biden and the media, and they've been lying to us, and Kamala is terrible at this, and I don't want her, and she, pick all your reasons. But I had more money in my wallet when Trump was president, and I remember all the things that they said he would do, he didn't do. Some of that is because those adults in the room prevented him from doing it, and that's why I go Joe Biden. That's what takes me back to Joe Biden's pardons, is that like him saying, "Oh, Trump will do the bad thing," gives
So
now
you're
Trump.
saying that if we gotta wrap this up because there's two other things I want to get to, but you're saying if Trump would have been more unhinged in 1.0,
Yes.
that maybe more people would have picked Kamala because of the lesser of two evils.
I don't even think we get to Kamala because I think Trump's potentially not even able to run again. I think potentially Biden already doesn't run again. And I think it totally changes history. And my point is Joe Biden's pardons do the same thing with the lawfare coming from Trump, the alleged lawfare that Trump's going to do, because now he can't do it because those people have been pardoned. So it kind of, you can't improve the negative because and I'd rather see Trump go after those people.
Segue into one of the things we still need to talk about. And I want to give you the opportunity to grill me on some things, and maybe this is one of them. I get a little excited, and on here we both do. But have you ever seen me wave to the camera like this?
Gosh. I've been avoiding this topic all week. Because do you know what my opinion is?
It's the autism.
I've not seen this one. And so maybe it's too far out there. I think Elon Musk knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh, 100%.
And
when he comes back and says, what was the joke he cracked?
Yeah, I saw.
Nazi saw that one coming.
Yeah, look,
he tried to say like no one and use the word Nazi.
Here's what I think really happened. If I had to guess, and this is again based on no information. First of all, I think the left is freaked out a little bit too much about it. I think clearly when he says my heart goes out to you, and then he does it 3 times to people up in the top of the arena.
So, okay, did you see the video of him doing?
Yes, I have. I've seen it, and my point is now it looks a little too close to the Nazi salute, which by the way, we used to do too before the Nazis did. So I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it was just a thing that got co-opted by the Nazis and then it became bad. We actually, all our kids, that's how they pledged allegiance to the flag until Stalin and Hitler started using the same one. And we're like, let's change it to hand over the heart. So my point is there's complicated history and it is a Nazi salute.
And why did we make that change?
Right. But my point is, I think Elon Musk knew that this is going to be one of those things potentially that the left is going to freak out over. And there's not enough there, in my opinion, to say, oh, it's like, this is obviously proof that he's a Nazi. I think that that's what he wants is us to talk about this. And that's sort of why I've avoided it, because I think they want to continue to own the libs on something where, and point the focus to something like that instead of like Trump pardoning the Silk Road guy that hired people to murder people to keep his identities. Like that's a bad pardon. You know what I mean? And no one's talking about it because we're talking about this. Is this a Nazi salute or not? It doesn't matter if it's a Nazi salute or not, honestly, right? Because
it matters, because here's why, and I'm going to show you what happened. The part that nobody's talking about is here.
There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen.
Here it is.
Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
No, that's not the one, actually.
To me, the heart goes out to you thing is like my point is I'm going to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
There's another one he did. I think it was at the arena, or maybe that was the arena, but there's one before he turns around and does it to the people behind him. It stops, and you see a holy shit look on his face.
I haven't seen that.
And
This
then-
is the
and
only
then he
video I've
turns
seen. This is the
around
only.
And then he turns around and does it again.
My point is, we saw like the conservative media has kind of been going bananas with this because now they're showing all these pictures of people doing the exact same thing to people in a crowd, and that's kind of my point. Is that like I think that the left wants to assume the worst in everything, and everything's a Nazi. And my point is, we don't have to go to Nazi to say that someone's bad. Like we don't have to.
Call that then? Okay,
What?
what do you call? You just saw it again. If
I
you
think
never
him-
saw it before,
like
you
I said-
saw it again. What do you call that?
I would certainly not have made that motion, but to say my heart goes out to you and that
Why?
he does it clearly to
Why?
the crowds
Why
in the
would you not-
300s.
Why would you not have made that motion?
Well, but I might have accidentally.
Why would you not have made that motion?
Well, but my point is that
Well, answer the question. Why would you not have made that motion?
because it looks similar to a Nazi salute. But
Exactly.
But here's the thing: to him, maybe it was. My point is, I don't know which one. He either did it on purpose or it was an
Why
accident.
is somebody who's not an American citizen this high up in a presidential administration in the first place?
Because he gave $257 million.
And now what's he doing?
But here's the thing, Yergs, there's
And
going
now
to
what
be
is he doing?
there's going to be a very public breakup between Musk and Trump, and so this is all nonsense. Because
Let's pray that no, it's not nonsense. Because let's pray.
I think
that
it's
said
nonsense.
public breakup happens in enough time. Or to
It'll
go.
happen before summer. That's my
Well,
prediction.
yeah, do you know why?
I think because Trump doesn't like another ego taking the spotlight. That's why. That's what it'll burn down to.
No, there's
Here's the thing about it. There are so many bad things that Trump already did in week one that we could talk about, and yet everyone's talking about, is this a Nazi salute? And my point is, it's a
we'll be back
distraction.
next week. Not a problem there. I'm trying to find. Maybe I deleted it from the side. I always do make a habit of doing that.
To me, it's a distraction on par with saying like, pick any of them. We do this all the time, and my point is, you don't like. It is very one-sided how the media does it. Like they're never, like they said, conservative media has shown like 100 pictures of Hillary Clinton and all sorts of other people doing the exact same thing, reaching out their arm to people at the top of the stands of an arena and looking directly at them. By the way, the Nazi salute, you look forward and do that. You're not looking up. And so my point is, he's looking at the people at the top of the arena. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. It's not that because I like Elon Musk. I think that there will be a breakup. I think that he's done some things that are.
Here's why that benefit of the doubt is already down the toilet. God, please come up soon. God
Right, but
damn it.
don't you understand that people just turn
He's
you off?
already in Germany trying to do the same thing. Point being,
Yeah, because he
Now,
wants to
how
make.
does
He wants to be a
Trump freak the hell
trillionaire.
out of every, that he's buying his way into other elections in a country where not only that salute, but the party that endorses it is prohibited.
Right. And but
That's
here's what
not scary to you.
I don't not like how he's being involved in world politics. Mostly because I don't think he has America's interest at heart. I think he has his interest at heart. I mean, that's
Exactly.
my problem with Musk, but that doesn't mean he's a Nazi. That's my difference, is that when we go to Nazi, because like, for example, to who like the gigantic factor in being a Nazi in 1930s Germany was an absolute hatred and blaming the Jews for all of Germany's woes. That's what the base of the Nazi party was. That was Hitler's entire worldview was, it's the Jews controlling communism in Russia, and the Jews are also controlling capitalism in the United States and Europe, and that's why we've got to eliminate the Jews. That's what was his entire driving focus of World War II, was to eliminate the Jewish people. I've seen no evidence that Elon Musk or Donald Trump want to eliminate an entire race of people from the face of the earth, and that they're blaming them for every sort of thing. So I have trouble going to the Nazi thing. I think you can be bad and not be a Nazi.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Try being gay in the federal government. I experienced that twice.
No, but he's not
And that's
rounding.
what they're doing. They're not going to say, they're not going to, when they're doing the Nazi salute, which by the way, is what that is.
They are not rounding up gay people and gassing them, Yergs. That's
No,
not
they're
happening.
rounding up brown people and
But-
unconstitutionally saying that the ones that were born here aren't American citizens.
I don't think
which,
that's going
by
to
the
fly.
way,
Right. I don't
was-
think that's going
was
to fly.
faulted already by a federal judge.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to fly. And I mean, I think we can have a discussion if we do we want birthright citizenship? We can have that discussion. But yeah, his executive order is going to get struck down by the Supreme Court, in my opinion. And so it's not going to matter. And also, immigration is saying people that come from outside the country to this country, that's different than saying this class of people based on a race or in a religion. It's not based on a race or religion. He's saying it across the board of all immigrants. And I'm not saying I agree with his immigration status. I'm saying, or stance, I'm saying that enforcing immigration laws is different than rounding up Jewish people. And by the way, in 1930s Germany, Nazi stuff, this was the people, by the way. We like to blame Hitler all the time, but I mean, I think it's worth noting. The German population was all about blaming the Jews for this stuff, and they were the ones that drove Jewish people out, and they were the ones attacking Jewish businesses, and they were the ones that had the night of broken glass or whatever, where they just basically went in and destroyed all, like the German people were absolutely responsible for that. Hitler might have lit that match, but they were willing to go along with it. I've seen no evidence that there's any group of people that's being rounded up and murdered or attacked. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the margins. There are racist people in the country for sure, but I've seen no evidence that is what this Trump administration is. And my point is, you can be very bad and not be a Nazi. I think Joe Biden was a terrible president. I think they did a lot of bad things. I'm not going to accuse him of being a Nazi, though.
Right, those conversations. You're upset. You have Biden, whatever Trump disorder, because Biden's not even president anymore, and you still can't can't stop calling him. I'm literally doing three things at once. I'm trying to find this goddamn Germany video. I'm responding to a text message on Messenger that's not even about this, and I'm trying to bitch you out too. All right, in the remaining 6 minutes, what did you want to? And we can run over today if you want. My next appointment until 1:20, so we can go a little bit over.
Yeah, I can too.
What did you want to grill me on?
Well, a couple things. Kind of going back to the Secret Service thing slightly. One of the things that has not been talked about very much this week, although a little bit, but I think it seems like it's mostly a story that's in for junkies like us. To me, the most concerning things that Trump did this week were the January 6th stuff, which we already talked about, mostly because, like I said, I think it sets a precedent of, hey, if you commit violence for me, you're cleared. And I think both Joe Biden's and Donald Trump sort of did a little bit of that. It's like, you're okay. You're okay doing illegal things as long as you are connected to politically powerful people. And what I hope that does is changes our opinion on, how we should maybe rein in the pardon power. But the other two things he did were, I think the Silk Road pardon specifically was interesting. And I'm curious your thoughts on pardoning a guy that was, one of the biggest drug dealers in the country and also tried to hire people, for murder. Again, what's the law and order aspect of this? And then revoking the Secret Service clearance or Secret Service detail for John Bolton. And now today it came out that he did the same thing for, is it Bill Barr it's two other people that were involved in the Soleimani assassination, and Iran has not just made threats. I mean, we have arrested and charged people with plotting to assassinate these people. And I mean, how do you think that's going to play out? Because I mean, we're not dealing with, I think Iran has been significantly weakened in the last year, maybe more so than I could have thought was possible a year ago. Now it's all been by Israel. It's not been by us, unfortunately. A little bit by us. I mean, we helped intercept the missiles that they shot at Israel, but Israel did most of the Hezbollah and Hamas sort of decapitations that they've done of their leadership and significantly weakened Iran. But that doesn't mean Iran won't do something desperate. And I think that trying to kill someone like John Bolton would be, again, I think there's going to be is that going to be the same repercussion for Trump as it would be for Biden if one of these gang members that was pardoned for a non-violent drug offense goes on to be violent towards someone? Do you see that having repercussions to either one of them?
Yeah, because here's the proof that Biden or Trump is acting inappropriately. in a vengeful manner. He
Oh
took
yeah, it's
away
retribution for sure. Yeah.
John Bolton's continued. No former advisor or staff member has ever had Secret Service protection more than 6 months beyond that administration's existence.
Yeah, and to be fair, John
Yeah.
Bolton didn't get it until Biden's administration because
Right.
it was in 2022 that those.
Not everybody gets it. I got in an argument one time with a guy who was a DOJ employee. So you would think he knows who his agency protects. He said, "Hey, I saw your buddies on 8th Street, which is a section in southeast or northeast, southeast DC, where the Marine headquarters is. Lots of really nice restaurants to sit and eat outside, which is what he was doing. I saw your buddies on 8th Street with John Bolton the other day, back when John Bolton was still the Attorney General."
Yeah.
And I said, "What
Well,
do you mean?"
he wasn't. Oh, you mean way back?
No,
Yeah,
this
sorry.
was back when John Bolton was the attorney. Not John.
He wasn't
Bolton.
Attorney General.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
John-
talking about.
No, John Ashcroft.
Yeah.
Was the Attorney General.
I was like, he was an advisor.
And,
That was national security. Yeah.
John Ashcroft was the Attorney General. And I'm thinking, because I knew guys at the FBI, I didn't know them well, so I don't know how he would say my buddies, and I certainly didn't know how he would know that. And I said, "What do you mean, my buddies?" He said, "Well, Attorney General Ashcroft pulled up to one of the restaurants for dinner, and he had his Secret Service detail with him." I said, "That's not Secret Service." And he said, "Sure it is. They had the lapel pins, the earpieces, the black Chevy Suburbans, the whole thing. They were Secret Service." And I'm like, "Dude, do you know how many government officials in the city of Washington get executive protection of any kind?"
Right.
I don't, and I do it for a living.
Well, and again, we've only got so many resources.
But that's
We
the other
can't
thing,
protect
is that
everyone.
He's telling me that every member of Congress gets Secret Service protection.
No.
And that's why I was protecting Hillary Clinton. I said, I was protecting Hillary Clinton because she's a former first lady. That's it.
Yeah.
Not because she's a senator. And at that time,
Yeah, it's
was
you're getting
running
the
for president.
information wrong. Yeah.
it was legally too early for her to get Secret Service protection as a presidential candidate.
Yeah, she would not have gotten that if she was not
Well, that's
former
why-
first lady.
Correct. That's why Barack Obama got it early, because we were going to various events throughout the country. And if we were run late, she'd say, "Guys, can we speed it up a little bit?" Well, we knew what that meant. We turned the lights on. Barack Obama was in a car service.
Yeah,
He didn't have that.
it's kind of an unfair
So when his
advantage.
people bitched. It was an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
So his people bitched. The president signed another way that he could got it, and that's how the advisors get it, and that's through executive order.
I also think it was worth doing with Obama just to hedge on the potential of
Well,
the first
that's
legitimate
what he
black
was
presidential
told. That's
candidate.
what- That's what Bush was told, was that you don't want this to happen on your watch.
Right. And
So,
I think it's
yeah.
worth,
Off we
sometimes.
go. Well, this guy had to go back and talk to his other DOJ employees, friends, to confirm that it was the FBI, his own coworkers, who protect the Attorney General, not somebody at the Secret Service who would also know who we protect and who we don't protect. And we're blamed through traffic because we got roads shut down for motorcades that we're not shutting down, that some other agency is. The Secret Service came through here. Why? We're not in that part of DC. But, oh, by the way, you're 2 blocks away from ATF headquarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Bolton was cut by Trump.
Like immediately. We're not, you didn't wait
Yeah.
hours. I mean, that was the prior, and you're right. You're right. That's an absolute sign of, I think Trump absolutely wants to be, how do you say, what's the adjective version of retribution? Reputative? I don't know, whatever that is. I mean, he definitely
Yeah.
he
Wannabe
absolutely-
dictator.
Yeah, he absolutely, he wants the law to not apply to him, and he wants to punish his enemies and reward his friends, which is why he's going to stack his cabinet with some bad people, because he feels like he's all for giving them the favor when he feels like he owes them one, and he's all for being vindictive when he needs to be vindictive. To me,
But
the John
here's-
Bolton
here's
thing,
why I don't think there's going to be pushback. He did and you said yourself, we need to ask this of Philip. January 6th wasn't enough.
yeah, I agree. And I'm not saying there will be pushback because of the Bolton thing.
I'm not saying that the Democrats didn't make a horrible mistake by allowing Biden to continue sooner.
And it was more than a
They
mistake. It
did.
was they were co-conspirators in it.
Yeah.
Other than Dean Phillips.
And
Dean Phillips gets the pass.
I'm not also not saying that just rubber stamping Kamala Harris, even though in the time period that it was their only choice.
Well, it was their only choice because no one else stepped
And
up
this
either.
all
People
should
forget
have, while this all should have happened a lot sooner. And I think there was a certain level of, he didn't allow it to happen in 2020. He's not going to allow it to happen in 2024. And that is, if you remember, when COVID came along, we were still in the primaries, and it was down to Biden, Buttigieg, and Bernie.
I
And
mean,
COVID comes along. This is history. Don't even bother arguing. Those are the only three that were left.
it was before COVID. Biden had shorted up.
No, that's who was left before COVID. But then COVID comes along, and all of a sudden, the three of them get together, and miraculously, Bernie and Pete drop out.
Well, but it was before COVID because it was at the South Carolina primary, right, which is in February. I mean, COVID existed, but it wasn't the shutdown yet. March 11th was the shutdown.
But we were getting briefings in COVID in February, actually in late January of 2020.
Yeah, you
I
were.
already had a boss that was sick from it that almost died, and I already lost one of my 6 friends by that point who did die from COVID. We were getting briefings in January, entire office meetings to get closed door briefings that were classified. I couldn't tell you back in January of 2020 that the flu, if you walk into a 100 square foot room, 10 by 10, with 8 other people in the room, you might infect 2 people in the room with the flu virus on you. But that if you walked into that room with the COVID virus, you will infect all 8 and the people that they can contact within the next 24 to 48 hours. I couldn't tell you that in January of 2020.
Yeah. But by the way, he did drop out March 1st. So
Yeah.
like it was before the drop, like Biden had sealed it up before COVID hit.
No, because in California, we were already closed by that point.
No, but I remember the shutdown.
I
The shutdown was
lost
March
a
11th because
boyfriend.
it was the
I
Thunder
lost
game.
a boyfriend because of COVID.
But the Oklahoma City
we
Thunder
couldn't
game was
see
that
each
was
other.
what did the national shutdown. It was after when the Thunder game shut down because Rudy Gobert got things. That was what kicked off the national shutdown of everything. It was March 12th.
I know when I lost a boyfriend in
I'm not saying people weren't dying from it. I'm saying that's when
I don't mean he died, but I mean because I was in LA and he was in Palm Springs and he was cheating. That was all before.
But anyway, your point is that what they dropped out and Biden became what?
Biden kind of corralled everybody together and said, "Here's what's going to happen. You two are going to support me because realistically, we already know I'm the one that can beat him, and this is serious." And COVID was. And I still say, having been the COVID coordinator for the Los Angeles field office for the remaining year and a half of my career, what I know about that and what people still don't really know for sure that I already know, if we would have shut down the country, ripped the Band-Aid off and shut down the country for 2, maybe 3 weeks, it would have been gone. And it would have been gone globally because we didn't shut down a lot of the airports either.
I disagree. I mean, I think the evidence has shown
You don't
that
know
the
what I
country,
know. So
it
that's
doesn't
okay.
matter. It doesn't matter. I know that the economic and educational byproduct of doing that for people that like the kids were not in danger at all. Kicking
not
kids
true.
out of school for a couple of years, it's absolutely true. I
Not
can look
true.
at the data.
There's got plenty because you say that they're not in danger.
They're not.
What happens when, and this was the issue with hotels, they had to book a room. If you're booked for Wednesday, the person prior to you has to be out by Monday morning. Actually, no, Sunday, because they have to let it sit until Monday night. Then they have to go in and clean it, disinfect everything.
Yeah, but we were wrong about all that.
I don't have one on my desk, but when I walked into a hotel room, my remote was wrapped in plastic for the TV.
China
there
did
was a-
shut down like you're talking about, and they
there
had
was a seal on the door. Yeah, but China also doesn't have the medical capability that we do.
China.
There was a seal on the door. Let me finish. There was a seal on the door. If that seal was broken before I went into the room, I wasn't allowed to go into the room. If we would have done all of that, and there's plenty of other experts that say the same thing, rip the Band-Aid off, shut the country down.
Government doesn't have a
force
right to do that.
Even for people like, absolutely they do.
No, I don't think they do.
What's the Constitution say? Provide the common defense.
That's not
Promote the general welfare. How is preventing a global pandemic not promoting general welfare?
China could have stopped the virus. We could not have by the time it got to
We're
us.
not China. If
Huh?
we're going to hold ourselves to a higher regard, we're not China.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying is that China, because it originated in China, could have prevented the spread, but they chose to lie about it. They chose to pretend it wasn't happening and cover it up.
Again, we're not China.
And the problem, and then China did try to shut down their country, like you're talking about. They literally sealed people in their apartments, and they still I think a higher percentage of them died than here. So, and also there's a
And
lot of
why did I just say that happened? They don't have the medical capability that we do.
they're literally where the virus leaked from a lab, most likely. So they absolutely do have they have medical capabilities too. They're an advanced economy.
Did that virus leak from any of our labs?
Well,
I
mean,
promise you, COVID's one of the nicer viruses we've got.
well, that's the problem, is that we funded gain of function research in a lab that wasn't taking safety seriously. I mean, I don't think it was on purpose. The people that think China released it on purpose, I think are ridiculous. Why would you release the virus in your own country? It doesn't make any sense. But I do think it was bad security.
Control issues.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't try to cover it up then. Like there's also it's very clear that they knew they made a mistake.
You killed your own people because you got too many of them. You're going to let that get out?
No, I'm saying they were hiding the fact that it was a virus. They were trying to pretend that it didn't happen. They've covered up all sorts of evidence. They weren't working with the WHO or authorities. They were trying to cover up the fact that this might have originated there. So my point is, I don't think that would have worked. And I think that I think that's the reason we have Trump again, by the way, is because, which is silly, but I mean, the Democrats get the blame because they were the ones asking for shutdowns. They were the one lying about the information. They were the one telling us stuff was science when it wasn't science. And I think they could have just been honest.
No. You're blaming a lot of people for passing what they knew at the time.
No, they lied. They lied. Anthony Fauci lied about masks, and there's no other way. He admitted they did because they thought it was better. There's no noble lie.
Exactly.
No, there's no noble lie.
Better, but they thought it was better, so they're not going to hold that back.
No. Look, here's the problem.
Meanwhile, literally every surgeon and surgical technician and nurse and whoever else has ever steps foot inside an operating room is wearing a mask.
Here's the problem.
If they're so bad, let's take it off and give each other a kiss on the cheek when we walk in.
You're not listening to what I'm saying, Yergs. Anthony Fauci and the CDC lied about the efficacy of masks in the negative. They said they don't work. Don't go buy them. And it's because their noble lie was that we're trying to protect that because we need nurses and doctors to be able to have them, and we have supply issues because we can't get them. Now, it's also foolish that those supply chains are connected to China. We should have been prepared for a pandemic. This is not something that's never happened before.
Maybe if we had a real president in office at the time.
Right, but here's the problem, Yergs. When you because this is Fauci, this is not Trump. Fauci decided it's a noble lie to tell people that masks don't work. And now, 2 months later, we're going to tell them you have to wear masks because they work. Why? People are not going to believe you because you lied one of those 2 times. And my point is, the government should have been more transparent with people. If they would have said,
a doctor that says, yeah, actually you should wear a mask, or some TV personality that suggests bleach and hydroxychloroquine and sunlight.
Who do I believe? Anthony Fauci when he says masks don't work, or do I believe when he says masks do work? That's my problem, is that the same guy said opposite things.
But you don't believe Trump like everybody did.
Well, of course I don't believe Trump, but like Anthony Fauci lied.
Well, tell that to 71 million other Americans. Anthony Fauci wasn't running for president.
Why don't you have a problem
Kamala Harris was.
Why don't you have a problem with how that backfired?
Kamala Harris would have guaranteed is that we would have been able to pick somebody else in 2028. Now,
I'm not arguing
we
about
won't get
that.
to it, but we'll definitely talk about that next week. See, and get an update on it, because some asshat in Tennessee thinks it's a good idea to put this dick in a third term.
Right, which is not going to happen. So again, it's not.
Yeah, well, you know what we also said wasn't going to happen was that he was going to get reelected in the first place.
You're right, but at least that is
let's
not
roll
controlled
those
by the
dice
Supreme
again.
Court.
Let's roll those dice again and see.
That's
how
9 people, not 71 million. My point is that you can't. The
yeah,
noble
that's the other
lie.
scary part.
The noble lie was
And he owns
bad.
the third of it.
The noble lie was bad in COVID. That's why people distrusted the
Yeah,
government.
but don't hang your hat on that one thing.
It's
when-
not the one thing, it's the lots of things. They also lied about the
Don't hang your
efficacy of
hat
the
on that.
vaccine. They lied about.
Don't
They
hang your
did.
hat on that one thing when Donald Trump has an entire walk-in closet of things to stay away from.
Have I ever claimed that Donald Trump's not a liar?
Then you got to admit that while this isn't a great situation, there is a lesser of all evils.
No, that's not how. Listen, that's not how people think. The voters.
Well, then you and I have a job. We got to teach them how to think critically.
Doing a bad
Have
thing.
I not been saying that for the past almost 2
No,
years?
but what I've been saying for 2 years is that behaving badly because someone else behaves badly is not an excuse for behaving badly. That's not how you
Welcome to
do it.
Washington, D.C.
And
Say
that's
that
what I'm saying is wrong.
Washington,
That's
DC,
why
and
you
see
needed
how
to be
they
shaken
feel
up.
about that.
Anthony Fauci lied because he thought it would be better. It ended up hurting his reputation and the government's reputation. Joe Biden, same thing. The media lying for him. These are all things that they thought were noble because, we've got to stop Donald Trump. And my point is, it backfired spectacularly. So it's just a bad strategy. The mask strategy should have been, if I'm Anthony Fauci, I say, here's the problem. We don't have enough masks. Doctors and nurses need their masks. So what we're asking the American people to do is stop making a run on masks because we need them for hospitals. And we want you to try to stay home and not infect people. That's what can help us the most. I think that most people.
Look at this before we go. There's some other words being thrown around that I told you were in place. Travis Evans, whose show is Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., is replying to a comment that Ken Williams said. His breaking point will be civil war. Does that sound familiar? Anybody?
Are we talking about Phillips' breaking point? What are we talking about?
No, Trump's breaking point, based on what they were saying about earlier. And
Right, but I'm saying his breaking point for that's the thing that will turn people on Trump, you think, or
well,
what?
Trump wasn't even shaken up about the assassination attempt, the alleged assassination attempt.
I disagree that he wasn't shaken up.
Elon knows what he's doing. Yeah. Elon knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I think he's being a distraction. I think he wants to be famous. I think he likes the memes. I think he likes the fights. I think that's why he's picking them. I think he likes to be a Twitter troll, which is funny as the guy that owns Twitter or X or whatever we call it now.
Yeah.
So
it's still Twitter.
yeah, I mean, either way. So my point is, the people keep thinking that if I do the bad thing to stop another bad person from doing a bad thing, it's a good thing. And I just totally disagree with it. I think that we've shown that that's how we got Trump again. I think that those behaviors are the reason the Democrats are in shambles, because they thought protecting Joe Biden was the right thing to do. I don't know why, honestly, because in 2022, what was the risk?
I'll have to dig up the long list of his against the odds accomplishments that did come to fruition during his administration.
I think he's the most lawless president we've ever had.
You tell that to Richard Nixon.
No, I think he's more lawless than Richard Nixon because mostly because he promised to not be. The hypocrisy of it is terrible to say. He literally said of Donald Trump, I think pardoning your family is a dangerous president and I'll never do it. And then he did it. That's a liar.
In Washington, D.C., that's a dime a dozen.
I don't care. You're excusing bad behavior by saying everyone's bad. I want good leaders.
You can't expect him to be the one to change that when he's still trying to put out a bunch of fires created by his predecessor.
Biden absolutely could have been the person that changed it. He could have spent 4 years reigning in executive power so that if Donald Trump got elected again like he did, he doesn't have the power.
You're asking him to do too much at once.
I'm not asking him to do too much at once.
Why are we still talking about this? I think that's referring to the Nazi salute done by Hitler Jr. How many times did the other side do this? This gets to what you were saying, that they've got pictures of Hillary. First of all, there's stop motion photography. There's stills that are taken when she's waving, like, I'm trying to get on the whole camera here, when she's waving like this. And, for those of you listening, I'm got my hand extended
But it's
or
just
my arm extended, but there's a flat palm to everybody else, and it's just in stopped photography.
But it's just as
Uh, uh,
deceptive to do that with Elon and not leave the "My heart goes out to you" part. I think you should
That's
do
a
all.
video.
I know, but show me all the
That was
context.
a video
No, but
of him doing the Nazi salute.
I saw
not
lots
a
of
stop
pictures
motion
too.
Photography
I-
of him actually waving.
I saw lots of pictures of it too in video form, which meant that someone made the editorial decision to post the picture of him in a video doing this instead of the full
Yes,
thing.
because that's what matches the headline.
Right, and
the
that
sensationalism
bothers me.
but it's still what he did.
Right, and I'm just saying I think it's a distraction.
As I was going through the different videos to show, there was still plenty of him with his arm across his chest, which is the other thing that the Roman salute was that was done by Nazis. Nazis just don't come straight up. They come from across the chest and up. Go to any white supremacist rally undercover as a good guy, because we don't want to go in there as part of the rally.
I'm not trying
And
to.
watch them do it.
I know. I'm even the guy that said Elon might have done it on purpose and with the heart thing to make it to literally get talked about. Like, but I don't know. Like, but I don't care. I think I need more evidence to prove he's a Nazi. Is my point.
Well, that's how you want to get attention. He's from South Africa, which is another racist country.
Yeah, but to
There's your
paint
more
everyone
evidence.
there as
There's a little bit more.
racist. Yeah, but I think that's wrong. I think that's as wrong as saying that any entire group of people is racist. That is racist. Or prejudice in some way. To paint an entire group of people, it's just not fair.
Yeah, Ken brings up a good point, and I've got a graphic of it somewhere. It's a side angle, as a profile of a person. It's a shadow person, nobody that's recognizable, and the hand is straight up in the air, and the caption reads, "Teacher, I know the answer." And then there's this red zone of, basically we'll say 1 o'clock to down like 2:30. And the caption reads, "No, Elon." And then it's at about like 3 o'clock and you're hailing a cab on the street corner.
Yeah.
And then, 4 o'clock, you're petting a child. 5 o'clock, you're petting a dog. And 6 o'clock, you're down by you're at rest and hands down by your side.
And like I said,
I've got a call in 41 seconds
Yeah,
that I've got to be on.
Adios.
So, gang, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us up the middle. That I think is a thanks. Don't forget to check out Travis Tuesday night at 8 p.m. The Point with Travis Evans. Travis, there you go. He's saying, I guess he's talking about you. You'll never get it. Thanks, Trav. And also the Homeless Conservative, once or twice a week. Keep getting on this guy to get a live show on Yerg's
let's talk
Radio.
about it.
You can
I'm
find that.
I'm
Yerg's.
trying to get one next week. I'm just trying to get guests for it.
And so that's it. I've got to run. Got a call starting right now. So I have no idea what's coming up next, but
Normal
I will
salute.
see you on Monday. Blake, I'll see you next week, pal. Thanks for everything. Well
See ya.
done. And thanks, everybody. See you.